All right, I think we're live.
Excellent.
All right, we're live, and this is we're with Abe Silvonen today. I'm Casey, and this is the Talk to Munster podcast. It's the first one, so we're figuring it all out. We got ice and beer and water.
Nice.
And Abe, and then Dayton. Dayton's my helper guy. He's over here. He's off camera, but Dayton, can we hear you?
Howdy there, y'all.
Oh yeah, Dayton. Here we are.
Nice. Happy to be here.
Oh,
Excited.
Sweet. This is sweet. So are we all? Yeah, that's me right now. I'm looking back. I don't need to anymore. This guy's got it under control.
Got it.
Well, you and Jeremy sure were hitting it off.
Well, we've been friends since maybe 2007.
You want to bring that mic up a little closer?
Oh, sure.
You sound like you're in a freaking hallway, you know? Yeah, you look closer. Just like kind of like right up there.
There it
Come
is.
on. Yeah. Oh, I can hear you so much. What do you think?
Nice.
Can you hear him, Dayton?
Yeah, I can hear him just fine.
All right, we're getting it figured. Dude, this is this guy.
I know
Dude,
it.
he's a freaking pro. I'm so
He's
stoked.
good. Yeah. It just fell in your lap.
So I'm sorry. Before I do anything else, this was a special request because somebody thought that Talk to Munster podcast was about the Loch Ness Monster, and I was like, all right, it's not.
It's not. It's just a clever name.
Well, but yeah, I figured I'd ask you. I just got this paper here. This paper is annoying me already.
That's all right.
It's a stupid paper. Get out of here, paper.
Request for the next episode. I'm going to buy you some note cards.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that's awfully nice of you.
Special gift.
Are they gonna say like Oregon Offgrid?
Maybe. Yeah. I'll put a stamp on them.
A stamp and manure.
Yeah. Pig shit. I specialize in pig shit.
Yeah. Do you think? Are you ready to open that?
Yeah, I think so. We're starting.
I just figured
we're starting
we'd
to
use
talk shop, so I think it's time to start drinking some beers.
Check it out. I got this key. This is my grandfather's. He passed away 4 or 5 months ago, and one of the things I got was this key that has a little knife in it.
Oh.
And I just
discovered that it's a church key as well.
Is that what that is? What do you mean? What's a church key?
That's what they call a bottle opener.
Oh,
That's what the old timers call a bottle opener.
I just figured I could probably. There you have it.
I don't know where that saying came from, but someday we can. It'll give Dayton something to look up.
Yeah, get ourselves some beers. I'm a huge grocery outlet fan, and they're right across the street because the News Times is sponsoring us, and we're actually doing this in the News Times. So I'll just walk over there at lunch break, but we're drinking the organic chocolate stout, man.
Yeah, and this is probably the only time that you can actually drink beer at work.
I mean, I got special permission. So I was like, man, we got to be able to at least drink a beer. Like, it kind of helps you loosen up a little bit. And
Yeah,
so
it certainly doesn't hurt.
it's actually about the perfect temperature for the flavor. Because, they say
for a heavy stout, yeah.
it's supposed to be like not super chilled, right?
Right.
Isn't that the deal?
Yeah.
I don't know how that works, but it actually, have you tried it yet?
No.
Dude, try it.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's good.
I figured,
it's like a real dessert beer.
I figured you would have liked that one.
Yeah.
But what were we talking about now before that? Okay, well, what do you think?
The name. The name of your podcast.
Talk Ness Munster.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it took me like 2 weeks to figure out the name. And before that, I was like constantly like in the back of my head, and I was thinking about it, but I like literally like zero. And then like one of my coworkers is like, oh, you should call it like Diving Deep with Casey. And I'm like, oh my God, just make me puke on the ground. Blah. I was like, no, like I've thought about names long enough where I don't want it to be like heavy.
Yeah, it sounds like you'd be like a consulting service with that name. Deep Dive Casey. We're going to sit here with the whiteboard for 7 hours, and we're going to, teach you how to be more efficient with your bottom line.
Deep Dive.
Deep Dive with Casey.
So I was going to ask you before I forget, because I'm going to forget because I don't really care right now, but I was just going to say, do you think the Loch Ness Monster is real?
Oh, I'm going to venture to say maybe. It's a politician answer. It very well could be.
I think it's a crock.
Well, you never know.
I mean, literally,
It's
like
a pretty, with modern technology, you'd think they would know by now. But
I mean, it's just like Bigfoot. It's like, how come they'd have to have like a habitat or like a nest or a home.
And then they'd have to bury their remains.
Yeah. and there'd be like droppings, and there'd be,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, we have the hair, and the DNA comes back, and it's always like a bear or horse or something, and it's like,
Yeah.
it's not even.
Yeah, there's no solid evidence.
And the people are crazy out of their minds.
Oh, there's like big old groups, and they have festivals, and they
They
go
have
out
festivals?
yeah.
That sounds like a good festival, though.
They
Like,
go on
that'd be fun.
walkabout and look for these things, exploratory events.
You can go festival and take what they're taking
Yeah,
and have a really good time. Oh, I saw
I think
the
any
Loch Ness
festival
Monster.
I'm cool with. I don't care what it is. I'm just always down. So
But I did want to talk about you a little bit in the sense that, like, I don't, just for people who are listening, like, you're from Lincoln County originally, or what?
I was originally born in the big metropolis of Florence, Oregon, in Lane County, about an hour south of here. So
Florence.
I didn't make it very far.
Didn't make it very.
Just
Got a bum leg. I had to stop walking. This is where I ended up.
That was it. So I'll just do a quick background. I was born in 1979, Florence, Oregon, which makes me, 42. Son of a mill worker. My dad was just a simple mill worker back then in the 70s and 80s. And my mom was just typical stay-at-home mom. In the early years, it was just, I had an older brother. So we were just real basic. Dad worked those 40, 50 hours a week, one vacation a year, go out to eat on Friday nights. Very, very typical working class family at the time. And then my dad took early retirement and decided that he wanted to, he was always kind of wheeling and dealing and buying junk stuff, always taking us on adventures, flipping cars and boats and RVs. And he did scrap metal and stuff back in the day before that was like a modern thing. When scrap went crazy 20 years ago, he was doing it 40 plus years ago, and running copper wire, and which also kind of took him in between all these weird, colorful areas. And I was always his little buddy, so I was always his ride along. And now there's since become, television shows, and then even things like the storage unit auctions, foreclosure auctions, and salvage. And he was always into that, and as a little kid, it was cool. It was just cool to be in that environment. And he, in 88, 89, he was up here in Newport, and there's a little secondhand thrift shop down in Nye Beach, and he just loved it. It was, the atypical junk store, then piled floor to ceiling, just crap, just junk. You could barely even walk in the place. Smelled like, broken dreams and stale cigarettes. It was like, that was it. And so he came home one day and he's like, hey, I think I'm going to buy this secondhand store. And he loaded me and Mom up into the car like a couple days later, and we drove up here. Matter of fact, it was like really about this time of year, maybe March or April. So it's always kind of nostalgic for me because the weather, I remember exactly the lighting, the weather. We met the owner, who at the time owned a little motel up here on 101. And then we drove down to the place, and it was the little secondhand store. And then right next door was a little home that was rented at the time. But the tenants, he had made arrangements for us to go in and look at the rental. And I just remembered, like, I know Florence is not, it's similar to, but back in the 70s and 80s, it was like almost like Toledo. It was a real small town, very quiet. And we lived out in the rural outskirts. So I was very much a country kid. I didn't really grow up on the streets with a bicycle or anything like that. I grew up on these gravel roads, and, with maybe a couple of neighborhood kids that you'd meet up with after school or whatever. But for the most part, we were pretty remote and pretty rural. So when we came into Newport, and at that time, Nye Beach was a very colorful neighborhood. It wasn't the neighborhood that we see now with the trendy stuff going on. And so it was very much working class, pretty impoverished, lots of families down there. And I was just like amazed as a kid. I'm like, there's kids riding around on bicycles, people, domestic disturbances, and people screaming at each other. And this, it was like, almost, I think I would imagine, this country kid comes out of the woods, and, like the first time somebody goes to like Vegas or New York or whatever, and there's all this sensory and new noises and sounds and smells, and you're just tripping out, and so that turned about, and I think at the time I'm like 9 or 10, and so, we just like, no big deal, just, oh, go look at this crazy, Dad's got another crazy, idea. next thing I know, it's like, hey, I bought this thing and we're moving, and so, and again, I'm 9 or 10, so all I know is this rural, we lived out on the outskirts by the sand dunes in Florence, and, we're going to move, right, and we're going to take the rental house that came with it, we're going to move in, so this is right in the heart of Nye Beach, and again, at the time, it's pretty colorful, it's, there's a lot of stuff going on, there's, at that, I hate to, say this, but at that time there's, the meth epidemic was like at the height, so there's tweakers running around everywhere. I think one year I lost my bicycle like 5 times, like you leave anything out for 30 seconds and it's gone, people just steal your stuff right off the porch. And I tell that story to people now, and they're like, really? This cute little trendy neighborhood? I'm like, yeah, it was pretty. You had to watch out, And then and then as I got older, there's a gang of we always called ourselves neighborhood kids, and some of us are still around, and you see each other and you kind of give each other the nod, you know each other from the neighborhood. And that was very much alive and well. Unfortunately, that's pretty much dead and gone. There's no kids left down there. There's no families. You got vacation rentals, trendy retired folks. There's not a lot of family, not a lot of love, not a lot of that going on. But so then we move up here, and the adventures keep going. It's just crazy. Dad's always at some auction somewhere, and if you want to spend time with him, you had to go along. And kind of like, so as I got older, my youth was very quiet. And then I got into like 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and I'm in and out of this secondhand store. Mom and dad are busy having their fun, not paying attention to us. So it was a free-for-all. I mean, what a great time to be alive, unsupervised, getting into stupid trouble. But we weren't the worst troublemakers. I mean, we weren't doing anything super criminal, petty stuff, shooting each other with BB guns and building tree forts on private property we shouldn't be doing and getting chased off by the cops and stuff, and just having fun and building BMX tracks around like the Performing Arts Center at the time. And there was always like, when I was a kid, we didn't have a skate park, and it was kind of unofficial. Believe it or not, the city of Newport used to let us do, used to have almost kind of a makeshift skate park at the Performing Arts Center. So there was like quarter pipes down there, and, little ramps that people would move around. And then where their little prop shed is in the back corner there now, that used to be a dirt pad, and we kind of made almost our own little makeshift pump track around it. It was pretty dope. And so we did that. And I'm sure any of the neighborhood kids back from like the 90s might remember some of that stuff. And certainly a lot of the skate kids, I was always kind of like that chubby kid who didn't realize he was chubby. So I always thought like I was good at, at skating and bicycling and stuff. But really I probably was just, maybe like mid-average, so, but I always wanted to, surf, skate, all that. But again, I was always the fat kid. So,
But yeah, have you seen this? You've seen the Newport skate park right now.
Oh, I have. Yeah. And I mean, it's just, to have something, I don't know if like us as kids, we were so ghetto, like, I don't know if we would have enjoyed something so nice, it would have been like, wow, what do we do with this thing? But I see it now, and I hope the kids appreciate it, because, we didn't have, the money wasn't here then, there wasn't a lot of care for the youth in the community at that time. And so to see some of those improvements, and obviously we could have more, that would be cool to see some more investments in public parks and cool stuff for outdoor activities for the kids to do. But yeah, no, the Newport skate park is pretty sweet,
Yeah, it's got like that wave. I want to
Yeah.
actually go in there, and I want to get all my pads in. I want to see if I can do the loop.
Oh, you want to see? Yeah.
I want to
sure
try.
we do it, and we have the GoPro.
Oh yeah.
When you do it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All the pads though.
Yeah.
Yeah, my one of my roommates just had a hard fall. Totally had to get life flighted, no helmet.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
it's hardcore. You can really get hurt. Like,
And I'm here to tell you, the older you get, like, for me, like when I slip now, I'll be like out for a week. So I can't imagine, bouncing off the pavement or something like that. I'd probably be, in the ICU for a month.
Well, and we're getting older. I mean, like my back has been like effed up for like 3 months, and like I started using an inversion table, and I'm just trying to get
Yeah,
to
I used to own an inversion table. How does that work for you?
Oh, well, it's great.
Is it working out?
It's great, but it's like I got these, I don't know, it's like I got these muscles and the bottom of my spine, and it's like this whole mystery, and I'm not insured, so my first reflex is not to go to the hospital or the doctor.
No.
It's like, I mean,
Well, and generally that's a good practice. I mean, really, if you're not 100% like healthy and in shape and on a good diet, those are generally the things you want to focus on first. You know, that's kind of like, I mean, I'm not a medical expert, but that's my opinion. I was lucky enough to have a doctor tell me that one time. I went in and had all kinds of digestive issues, and I used to be quite a bit heavier, and I'm getting fat again, unfortunately, but that comes to just being old.
Did you eat any of that
beers
meat?
And I did sample the tri-tip earlier off the Traeger. I did, but I was.
Oh, that looked so good.
Casey
Straight from
was
Costco.
over at the house earlier, and I was telling him that Mariah and I came to my wife Mariah, and I came to the epiphany yesterday that it's time to start scaling back the calories and eat more greens. I mean, we're realistic. We love La Roca burritos and Cadillac margaritas, and I'm not going to go without. So I just have to be realistic and say, if I could be better 90% of the time and really settle for 80, and I think that goes with anything in life. It's like at work, if you could put in 80%, you're probably better than the rest of the herd, and so if I can do that with my diet and exercise and be good 80% of the time, I mean, I might still be a fat ass. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I'm going to feel happy about my 80%, So, I mean, I'm shooting for 90, but again, I'm going to be realistic.
But you work hard, man. Like I actually, when I go, like Abe has a YouTube channel that the News Times has been producing. And so I'm the part of News Times that produces that. I'm the videographer. So I go out there. When I go out to Abe's, it's like, for me, like, I'm going to get my steps in today.
Well, yeah, but you have to follow around like 4 people. And I'm just the fat guy in the machine most of the time.
Yeah, but you still got to walk.
I got to get in and out of it.
You got to walk to the, well, if you drive
and then
I
got the controls back and forth. So my forearms and my shoulders and my neck from looking back and forth, dude,
you're working them neck
just
muscles,
totally
them
sore,
neck
man.
calories.
Working it, bro. Yeah,
you should have a skinny ass neck.
I got a little redneck.
A skinny ass redneck.
Oh man.
Oh man. I was writing down questions earlier in case there was like a dead spot.
Right.
But it's like, the thing is when you put the headphones on and you get in front of the mic, I find it's hard to stop talking.
Yeah, and as most of y'all that know me, I mean, that's all I do is talk. I mean, I was a sales guy. That's all I used to do is I would talk for a living. I mean, that's what I do. And and now I'm not a salesman anymore. I mean, in a sense, I am a little bit. I guess we could rewind a little bit, and I can kind of pick up with a little bit of my history of. I'll try to go. The exciting part was that transition from when I was 9 or 10, moved to Newport, and then the growth, and then of course I was a teenager doing stupid teenager shit like everybody does. Kind of going off, feeling my own. Always kind of dabbled, always had friends in the construction industry. I always say, I knew a bunch of people that were either in construction or fishing. Thankfully, I kind of I get real seasick. So, because either one at the time and still currently, you can be pretty stupid. And no offense to anybody in those industries, because I know a lot of smart people in those. But you could just show up and work hard and make pretty good money. And so, and as a kid, having friends that had parents that owned construction companies, like, oh, they'll pay you $10 an hour to come clean up wood scraps, and back then minimum wage was probably $5 an hour. And you're like, okay, cool. And so I started kind of off and on helping out here and there. And I wasn't really any good at it. It was kind of like I was saying when I was a kid, skating or riding bikes or whatever is, you always think you're better than you are, but I always show up and, I'd help out and I'd pick up little knowledge here and there. And, and it didn't really matter. I was pretty hungry. I got into my 20s and I knew that I didn't really want to work for my dad. I didn't really want to be in the junk business. I knew that, college wasn't an option for me. Some families that were, some of my grandparents were college professors. And that just really isn't my lifestyle. I wasn't an academic guy. I'm still not. I learned by screwing stuff up 4 or 5 times, seeing it, feeling it, touching it, building it, and then figuring out a better way. But, excuse me. So I knew the trades. Like I could always go mow lawns or move dirt or whatever people needed. And that was before the first, before this recession, before the 2008 recession. it was the Wild West. I mean, people were borrowing money that shouldn't have been borrowing money. And it's kind of like it is now. The big contractors wouldn't touch anything under 10 grand. And here I am, this little guy working for a little contractor that had my own truck and my own tools. And people would pay you, $500 or $1,000 for a couple hours worth of work. And, and as a young man, that was enticing for me. And so I did some odd jobs and little of this, little of that. And then eventually, where my life gets really interesting is I was 26 and I get a phone call from my father, and he explains that, that him and my mom were probably going to get a divorce or separation, and that he would need me to either come in and help him take care of his affairs, that being the original secondhand store, and they owned a few properties at the time. And he just kind of it was kind of humbling for me because, I've always idolized my dad, and he's always been this kind of he's always the smartest guy in the room and nobody knows it. He's super studious, but he's introverted. And so, but I know my dad really intimately, obviously. And so he's always been kind of like my idol, and so getting such a raw emotional phone call from somebody dealing with such, inner turmoil in their life. And it also kind of pertains to you, but kind of doesn't, because it wasn't really working for him at the time. I remember it very vividly. It was cold. It was like a November day. I was working on a beautiful deck on the front side of Depot Bay, North Point, Ocean View, beautiful home, doing a big $20,000, $30,000 deck out there. And he calls, and I kind of remember going like, okay, he's like, well, I don't know what's going to happen. It's kind of the shock and awe, and he pours it all. I always say vomit, when you're emotional and you just throw it all up, and so he kind of vomits out what he's got going on. And then the short of it was really, the short term was nothing. I just kept going my whole life. But then as months progressed, he eventually actually offered me to buy the business from him, the original Nye Beach business, which was Eager Beaver Secondhand. And so,
so you didn't start Eager Beaver?
No,
I thought
not
you were
even my dad did. And so,
no way.
It was originally started in 1972,
no
71,
way.
72, somewhere in there. And so there was 3 or 4 owners even before my mom and dad. And then, but I knew that I didn't want to do junk. And so, I've always had I was always interested in real estate transactions ever since I was a kid. I bought my first house at 23-ish in Depot Bay.
That's bananas.
Yeah. I bought
23?
23.
Do you know what I was doing at 23? I was doing anything.
Yeah, well.
I was learning how to surf.
Right.
And I was living in Corvallis and riding a bike. To work, riding a bike.
Up until a few years ago, I would always just say, oh, I'm just a real average dude. And then a real close friend of mine goes, bro, you are so far from fucking average. You got to just don't even say that anymore, And it kind of made me feel like shit, honestly. I'm like, But for me, it feels real normal and average. I get interested in something, and then it becomes almost an obsession. It's really like, I want to do real estate. I want to buy and sell property. I want to, remodel property. I want to learn how to build. I want to learn. So the stuff that I'm interested in, and again, I'm not a big studious guy. I don't do a lot of research. Now we have the luxury of having YouTube. So it's pretty sweet because anything that I want to build, when it comes to our current homestead or stuff, I just type up YouTube. But then I do my own version of it. I don't ever follow anybody's plans verbatim, but the old school days of how to become a real estate, I've sat through and read a few of the stupid books. And then back then I didn't really even understand how it works. Now I could literally write the books. It's I get it now, the terms like other people's money and owner carry and, all of this other stuff that, back then you're like, oh, that seems so far-fetched. And, oh, just use a private investor that'll loan you money so you don't have to use any of your money and get enough to pay for the rehab and make the payments. And then when you sell the property, you get X amount of dollars. Well, when you're 23 years old and, you don't even have a real job, you're doing odd jobs for people, but you're making more cash than you probably should. So you don't have justifiable income. So you don't have good credit. How are you going to convince a millionaire to just give you $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 to buy a shitty flip house? That's a good
question.
Right. It's a good question. So I spent a lot of my early years frustrated wanting to buy and sell real estate, but not having enough legal cash flow and not having the right investors to be able to do that. And so I was on the sidelines, and I would also take deals that were shitty deals, like at the time. And I know a lot of the old guys that would turn me on to and be like probably laughing, right? Because they're like, oh, here's this young dumbass. He wants to make money in real estate. We'll show him, you know. And I was too stupid to know better. So I'd buy a crappy mobile home, you know, and I'd fix it and take way too long to fix it and go way over budget. And realistically, you know, I might make 10 grand on the deal over a year, which is ridiculous. I won't even do that in a month now. I'm just like, you know, but that being said, so I'll rewind a little bit. But so I was in my 20s and I knew I wanted to do real estate. Dad's offering me the secondhand store. I know I don't want to sell people's junk. You know, back then you're literally cleaning out estates. You're cleaning up other people's crap. You know, half the time it stinks like rat shit and cigarettes, and it's gross. You know, you're literally cleaning up after people. And also what happens is I said, well, I'll buy the store, but I really need the land. I need the house and the commercial building, because I want to be a real estate guy, right? He's in a position, he doesn't care. I won't say he doesn't care. He doesn't need the hard cash. So he says, I'll sell it to you on a contract. So I said, well, this kills two birds with one stone. I want to buy more property. I'm having a hard time finding any because we hadn't hit the recession yet, top of the market. I can't find enough capital to buy more property. I own a couple pieces. It's fascinating to me. I want to own more. So he sells me the pair on a contract, and then says, well, by the way, I'll practically just give you the business. I think I might have paid him 10 or 20 grand for the contents of what was left in there. And so I don't know, by the grace of God, how this occurred, but I still had a job at the time. I buy it, and I said, well, I got some loose ends to tie up for a friend of mine. I was working for a friend of mine part-time as well, doing some construction stuff. Said, I'll finish up some work for you, and I'll work this, because we got it. Now we own a store. And, you know, it's not just going to sit here because I have to make a payment every month. And it wasn't really making enough money to pay the payments that we had bought it for. But I thought to myself, I was just young and dumb enough. I said, well, I turn this thing around and I'll figure it out, right? I'll figure it out. I'm the king of figuring it out. And so we get rolling. We get it. I finish up these things. And this is this is 07, dude. So then, you know, the rest of the world is starting to nosedive. We were about a year behind here at the coast.
Was that like 06, 07?
Right, yeah. So I make the deal. I think we negotiated in 06. I closed the deal in May of 07. So I buy this thing in 07. By the time I'm 6 months into this thing, we are knee deep in the worst recession that I've seen in my life that, you know, most people had since the Great Depression, right? I mean, everything's just collapsing. And so... And it is a full-blown, at this point, you know, I would say new and used secondhand liquidation store. Well, everybody's combining households. They're losing their houses left and right because they went and got a second mortgage, a third mortgage. They borrowed 125% of the value of their homes. People were losing their houses left and right. And they're moving in. Again, they're combining. Oh, got to move in with mom. Mom and dad got to move in with the kids, vice versa. And what does that do to the secondhand market? Also, right then, this is the infancy stage of things like public forum marketplace, Craigslist. So do you really need, you don't want to, I'm going to sell you this item, Abe, for $50. He's going to sell it to another customer for $100. Well, guess what? Now he no longer has to sell it to Abe because he can sell it directly to the customer for $75 on Craigslist. He makes an extra $25. The other guy saves an extra $25. And overnight, what was used to be common practice with thrift stores become obsolete. They're done.
I never thought about that. That does kind of make sense how Craigslist would have been competition with
Absolutely.
the thrift stores.
Because there's no longer a reason. And then also public sale, liquidation sales. Everything's you can get it out to mass users right away. Oh, hey, we're going out of business. Well, I used to liquidate for people. Now you can just sell it directly to the public. You don't have to use a liquidator anymore because you have this you know, the public internet to market. And so, you know, so me, I'm sitting here with an absolute pile of dog crap, you know, like, oh my God, you know, I got a $3,200 a month mortgage. I got, you know, a 2-year-old kid. I got, you know, car payments. I have things to do. I you know, still owned another house. I got all of this going on, and I'm going, man, I don't know what to do. And So right about that time, I started dabbling in new liquidations. My dad had an old friend out of Portland who used to just buy and sell anything under the sun. But he specialized in mostly things like domestic, like light fixtures and electric, and a lot of stuff that's really not marketable to the general public. But every now and then the guy would get a deal, and this was the glory days of liquidation. This was like the recession. So you would get, not even 10 cents on the dollar, sometimes 5 cents on the dollar. And so I started kind of going up. He was an old guy, and I don't know. He's probably no longer with us. I haven't asked around the circles because I've been out of that business for a while. But his first name was Bob, and he was legendary in the Portland area for. He was affiliated at one time to the big city liquidators guys, Walt and them, and that's kind of the circles I grew up on. And again, my dad always, he kind of like I wouldn't say he was like friends or close, but he knew all those guys, and they knew him, and so it kind of, in a way, it got me in the door. Here's this young kid in his 20s. They would say, well, okay, you're ambitious. We see that. We want to help you out. And unlike the real estate business, people in the liquidation business, they really took me under their arm. And so I had a couple of really, I always used to say, I like to do 7 or 8 once in a lifetime deals every year. And so, and back then it was from 2008 to, all the way up until I just retired. Even when I retired out of the furniture business, I was the deal guy. You got 2-3 truckloads of mattresses for $30,000-$40,000. Let's do it. And so, but those early years of liquidation, it was me. I had, I'm driving the truck. I'm unloading the truck. I'm brokering the deals. I'm buying whole truckloads of stuff out of Canada, out of Mexico. And then they're coming up to me, and then I'm literally getting them out of a Portland warehouse, and then I break them up, and then I sell them to other liquidators that had no idea about these deals because I was there first. And I did a deal, and it's the silliest deal, and some of the people I know intimately make fun of me for it, but I bought I think it was 70,000 lampshades one time.
70,000 lamp shades?
Yeah.
Without the lamps.
Right. And so, that's the funny thing. And so this guy, Bob, that I was just talking about, he's got this huge warehouse off of, I think it was, I want to say like 23rd Street, down by the railroad, down in Portland, right? And so, all industrial. You go down there and it's totally unassuming. One side's like a cabinet shop, and there's all these weird little hidey holes, but it's a pretty huge warehouse, And so he does this deal for, again, they're light fixtures and regular lamps, and they end up selling him, I believe it was 2 semi trucks, completely. It was 7 truckloads total, 2 of which show up and they're completely full of lampshades. And he complains to the company he brokered the deal for and was like, hey, these are supposed to be light shades and lamps and whatever else. So unbeknownst to me, though, I believe he got them for free. And he's like thinking the same thing, like just how you said that, lampshades, really? And so I show up there and I'm buying other stuff. I'm buying, like, at this point, these lamp deals were like great. I'm buying lamps for $3-4 and selling them for, $29, and they're $100 lamps, right? So people are stoked. You could still make money even in a recession if you give stuff away, and it's all relative to who you're buying from, who you're selling to. And so all these lampshades are there. And in the early days, my dad, actually, after I bought the business and I was doing this, he would ride along with me for fun. So it was a little role reversal. He'd come with me and just see what kind of crazy shit I was into, And he was there that day, and they're giving me shit because, so the guy's Bob, he's old, right? And so he was old back then, and he's like, hey, I'll sell you some lampshades, and back then it's like usually by the pallet. You buy a pallet of something, you get 200 of these for $3 each or $10 each, but you're buying the whole pallet, right? And so Bob says, no, I want them all gone. And I'm like, bro, it's like 70,000 lampshades or whatever, like that's a lot.
70.
Well, and then he says something crazy. He goes, I'll sell you the whole lot for $500. When they're all brand new. These things are brand new. And so I don't even know. I'm sure Google was a thing, but it's, in the early, it's not like today where literally everything's at your fingertips, right? You want to know what a certain pattern or whatever goes for, you can look it up. Back then, not so easy, right? So I'm doing some research and I'm like thinking, wow, even like the cheap retailers, Walmart and stuff like that, lampshades are, $15, $20, $30 each. And then I'm going 70,000 for $500. I mean, it's not, so no, it's no longer the price. It's how can I move 70,000 lampshades?
Oh yeah.
And where do I put them? And the good news is back during this recession time, warehousing was cheap. And so, I mean, I had warehouses everywhere and they were huge, right? And so then that wasn't really an issue. And so my dad's like, he's hitting me and I'm going, the fuck am I going to do with 7? No, even if they were free, I don't want to move these. You know how much moving and stacking and inventorying, and then I got to sell them. And, I said, it's a hassle at some point. Just because something is free that has value doesn't always equate to opportunity, right? And thankfully, so it was kind of funny because they're giving me a hard time. He thinks he's giving me a gift, right? So he's almost borderline offended that I'm like hemming and hawing. So then him and my dad get to joking and they're like, what about half for 250? And they're kind of, and I said, I go, okay, fuck, and I just like shoot from the hip on a lot of stuff. I'm like, I do that now with much larger dollar amounts, but back then it was like, psh, okay, cool. All right, fine. I was on the fence at 500 for all of them. That cuts my liability in half. Then I'm driving home and I'm like, if I'm going to do half of them, I might as well take them all. It's $250. I mean, geez Louise, a night on the town is going to cost you more than $250. So I instantly pick up my cell phone and I call him and I go, Bob, just put my name on all of them. He says, all right, I think he gave me like 30 days. He goes, you got 30 days to get these things out of my warehouse, right? And I made more money on that lampshade deal. I've only had one other deal I made more money on in my entire life. I quit keeping track at like...
Wait, really?
Yeah.
One other deal you made more than the lampshade.
Yeah.
Can you give us a ballpark on how much?
I quit counting at $80,000 on the lampshade deal. Yeah.
I'd like to make $80,000 on lampshades.
I mean, that's over 5 years, but still. I mean, I had my $500 back. I made one stop on my way home and had double my money in one little stop and didn't even have a 1%.
You mean you went and picked them up and
right.
Then you stopped on the way home and
yes.
you doubled your
to
money.
Another vendor.
And you sold.
Yeah.
So you sold $500.
Yeah.
Or no, 1,000.
Yeah.
You doubled your money.
Yeah. And then I mean, I had another furniture manufacturer that I worked with, and I was trading him lampshades for brand new furniture. And then, there's obviously some tax loopholes we can't talk about there, but so yeah.
It's a loophole, it's legal.
Right. Yeah, maybe. And that was a long time ago. So
yeah.
No, but so that was another deal that I made. And then I had a friend of mine that had an import business that actually got me into furniture. So he had an import business, and this was during the recession. He targeted home decor companies and staging companies. And believe it or not, a lot of people don't know this. It was called Compass Home Furnishing. He was based out of Corvallis, and a guy named Joel. And I was buying actually, believe it or not, I met him at a garage sale at his house one time. And he had kind of some of his scratch and dent stuff there. And then we get to bullshit, and I'm like, I got a store, and, I'm kind of, into this. And he's like, bro, he goes, I got this whole garage over here. Just load your truck up. And I had a deal with him. I had a small box van at the time. It wasn't very big. It was like a 10-footer. And it was always cash with that guy, and you get that with these guys. They're like, oh yeah, they write off the inventory and then slip me some, And I think it was like that time I had a small box van, and it was like $1,500 cash. And I got all of his old show samples and scratch and dents and stuff. So I was liquidating for him for a while. And I did that for about a year or so, and it did really well. And his stuff, he was a great buyer. And in the beginning, he had some really cool prototypes. Like he had also a really good deal I made a lot of money off of. He had a bunch of hand-hammered copper out of Mexico. That was a deal that didn't pan out for him. The vendor quit making it, and so he had to quit selling. And he ended up having 4 or 5 pallets of solid copper stuff, and that stuff was just gold. I mean, bowls and vases and just super fun, and the flavor. And I look back on it now, and I was so naive to like the way the world is now, and then owning several, furniture retail stores in the years past that, to see that deal and be like, I had no idea, I was so stupid, like how much value was there. And I was getting it for so cheap, and I was giving it away but then I didn't want to be greedy either, and I wanted to turn quick dollars and I wanted to turn it into capital. And so that deal, so then it came, I can't talk about dollars because it was part of a bankruptcy and stuff, but they came down to, at the end, they were doing a bankruptcy deal, and the trustee gave me the opportunity to compete with another liquidator, and it was all legal, and so through the bankruptcy, and I was able to buy, I think it was around $250,000 worth of wholesale cost from him. And again, I was really small at this time. And it was a percentage of their cost, obviously. So it was, nowhere near that, right? And so again, I can't talk about exact dollars, but so I made a lot of money on that deal as well. A lot more than, I'll say more than 70,000. So and this was all within a year of each other. So the lampshade deal, and again, I was so naive. I just thought this was the way, here I am, this young kid. I don't even think I'm 30 at this time, maybe 27, 28 years old. And I'm just doing back-to-back liquidation deals. And I just fell into it, because secondhand was dead and I knew I didn't want to do that. So I had this retail store. So I'm wholesaling to other vendors and I'm putting it through my retail store. So I'm making really good money at retail end. And then I'm wholesaling stuff to other friends that have other discount stores. And then always various stuff. There was a flea market guy. There was an artist that liked to buy my stuff and put it next to his stuff at his galleries so he could pay his overhead, when he was going and doing these shows. Not everybody wants to buy a $3,000 piece of art, but they don't mind buying a piece of hand-hammered copper for $99. You sell 2 or 3 of those, you pay your fuel costs for the weekend, and then you're not sitting there, going broke showing your art. And so, there's so many I met so many crazy people along the way and did that. And so it's kind of funny because I don't tell these stories very often. So I'm kind of glad we're here and we're talking about it because I forget a lot of the things I've done. And again, that goes back to I'm just some average guy. But I had a real strong 10 or 15 years where I just hustled, and my kids suffered a little bit. My relationships certainly suffered because I was on the road a lot. I worked a lot. I kind of lost track of what was important. I was just trying to build this crazy empire and, not really, I wasn't even chasing dollars. It just became fun to me. It was like a challenge of the next deal and the next deal. And then I rode the wave. And then there was also a time when we started pulling out of that recession, 2010, 2011, 2012, things started getting better and there was less deals and people were paying more money. There were bigger companies involved, so it just, I don't know. It changed for me. And so then that's how I got into new retail. I started seeking, more repeatable. People were coming to me and they were always looking for that next deal because I was always bringing it. And then the gaps, the peaks and valleys became further apart. And so the peaks and valleys became further apart. So I started supplementing with, stuff I could get all the time. And then, certain manufacturers that also looking for scratch and dent stuff too and deals. I think any new vendor, I always say, what do you got for closeouts? That's my famous line. I'm the closeout guy. What do you got for closeouts? What do you got for deals? And then again, that became fewer and fewer and fewer. And then, so I think it was 2015, we just decided we said, let's do an all retail model. We'll still try to find closeouts. We'll intertwine them as hot buys, but let's do repeatable furniture and just go all furniture home decor and no more salvage. There was a time where I skipped a little bit of a period there where I worked with a company. A good friend of ours owns the Wheeler Dealer chain out in the Valley. And they do things like shelf pull foods. And, so we actually had a food aisle and a hardware aisle. And, we were like the full-blown discount store, apparel, a mini version of the Wheeler Dealer stuff. And they're such a nice family. The owners of that store they're not relatives of mine, but they're like a brother-in-law scenario. And I'm so blessed. They just took me under their wing. And these guys have way more buying power than me. And they'd let me come through their warehouse on any given time and sell me stuff at their cost in smaller portions, and that was really good. We did a lot of that and that was good. And that got us through when the liquidation business started getting more sparse. That helped us because we had their buying power. We grouped together and vice versa. I had a few deals that I got that they didn't have and I'd share with them. And so we were sharing deals and doing that. But my passion kind of wore out. I wasn't there anymore. It wasn't as fun. The deals, and then also too, as technology progressed, there wasn't the deals. Like back in the day, you could just buy a miscellaneous truckload of stuff. You buy a miscellaneous truckload of stuff, and now it's all barcoded. You know exactly what you're getting down to the last pack of gum. There's no mystery in it. There's no fun, right? And and then there was always money in home decor and furniture and mattresses, and I knew that. And every time I'd get a furniture deal, I'd always make way more money, and it would always sell faster. And so, of course, being a serial entrepreneur, you chase what's going to be the easiest way to make money, and then less stress and less headaches for me. Instead of selling 3 for $1 candy, out of bins, let's sell 3 or 4 transactions that are $500 to $1,000 each, and you do the math. It's like you're dealing with a lot less people, a lot less volume, a lot less labor, and it's easier. And I have always been into, and dabbling in real estate, home decor, staging, decoration. It's always kind of gone hand in hand for us. And then I should add throughout these years, I've been buying and selling a little house here, a little house there, dabbling in the real estate market because I started making a little bit more money. And then I got a little bit more friends with money that were willing to loan me money, and got better credit and so on and so forth. And so I started nabbing up a few local deals, a couple of houses, a couple of commercial buildings, and and just doing stuff, raising the kids and working through. And then in 2015, we decided to go all furniture. And that's when I just got together with my wife now, Mariah. And it was kind of a perfect transition because I'd been doing my own thing and really hustling in this liquidation business for almost the last decade before that. And then I'm just going to shift gears and go into this slower, or what I thought was slower. That's the funny part, and it's like brand new. I'm going to literally, I think it was like Super Bowl Sunday. I go, we're going to do a half off sale. Then we're going to close the store for a few days. We're going to take out all the merchandise, all the shelving, and we're going to fill it full of brand new furniture and just see. I mean, who does that? Who has a successful business and then shuts down on a Sunday and then completely revamps and then reopens, like, say, on the next Thursday? 3-4 day transition and just says, I'm doing one business and then the other. You're nuts if you think you can do that. Anybody's nuts. And again, I had no idea how stupid I was, and I had no idea. I'm just going all in. Like, I'm never all in because, obviously I had some money in the bank. I had some capital. I could have went right back to the old format in a week. But, it was still a gamble, right? It's a gamble. And so we shut it down. We started out, and really, we're salespeople. We've been dabbling in furniture and home decor. It's not, but first of all, nobody told me how boring it was going to be. Also, it was in the original location. So I had all the junk shop people that were pissed at me that are like, where's the old store? That was kind of a running joke with all, because we kept that location going for about another 5 years, even when we grew into bigger locations. And so that was like, people would always stop at, what happened to the old store? Where's all the good stuff? And it's like, and so shaking the old persona of the history of what we had was so difficult. So difficult. And we battled with that right up until we finally shut it down for the last time, that location.
Which one was, where was that
The
located?
original Nye Beach store, or we call it the...
That wasn't that long ago. I think I remember when it was still there. Was it within the last 5 years?
Yeah. I want to say it was probably... We shut it down maybe 2019, late 2018, 2019. And then I started a big renovation on it because I wasn't quite sure. Again, you got to remember, we bought that place when I was 10. And it's been in my family since then. And I kind of had some history there. And then until I didn't, and so I outgrew that. I bought bigger buildings. I leased bigger buildings. We moved on. At one point, we were in the outlet mall in Lincoln City. We had 4 stores at one time and probably 20 employees-ish, And it was then that I realized that I didn't want to do any of it anymore. I'm honest to God, dude. We had the before the COVID pandemic hit. We had a beautiful store in the outlet mall. Just beautiful. It was probably, one of the nicest furniture home decor stores I've been in. And I'm not just saying that because I built it. It was beautiful. I was just looking at Facebook memories the other day, and I'm like, dude, That was nice. We did a great job. And we did. And we had a bunch of money and we had a bunch of inventory. So we pushed it in. I mean, we just said, if we're going to build a store from scratch and we want to do a beautiful showroom, I mean, just pull out all the stops. And we did. I mean, we ordered truckloads and truckloads of, new sofas and recliners. And then with the stuff we had, I mean, I think we bought $30,000 or $40,000 worth of area rugs, and we just lined it out, in piles. And we at the time, and still the current owner of the store has the same connections, but we had a home decor, from India and from Vietnam that are, solid wood, just gorgeous stuff, gorgeous. And so we pulled out all the stops. The trouble with it is back then, pre-pandemic, the mall hours are like, I want to say it's like 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. And that's like the majority of the time. Like it might be, other than Sunday, you can close at like 6, right? And I'm here to tell you that like nobody shops in that mall, and especially for furniture after 6 p.m. So staffing that place was a real nightmare. We had a GM, Ryan, who was there, full-time salesperson. I think Gina was up there full-time. And then we had a couple of our other people. But what ended up happening is we ended up pulling some of our superstars from Wallport and Newport to supplement up there. And then also they would get up there. Some of them really appreciated it, especially when they're up there 2 days a week and they get those long days. They're getting the extra hours. They're making more sales, so they're getting higher commissions. So I didn't really get a whole lot of complaint from the salespeople. It's just the management team that was like, these hours suck. And I mean, many times, when somebody has shit to do, who's getting called in? We are. And after several evening shifts and closing shifts, I just realized I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do any of that anymore. We were on a 1-year feeler lease with an option for like another 5 years. And I think it was even before the pandemic. We were like, we had a quick meeting between, I think really actually what went down is Mariah and I went to Sun River because we were just worked to the bone, super stressed. The trouble when you're a business owner and you build something and your vision is successful, you should be super stoked about that. And it was an instant cash producer. Again, who can do that? I mean, you can't just generally open up a store and be like, oh, we're making money. And it was. I mean, day one, week one, month one, it was cash positive. I mean, and that's unheard of. And so I think our formula worked really well. The trouble with it is we're so hands-on with our management team and we're so specific for our customer service demands that it almost can't be duplicated. It has to be, you have to have a supervisor on hand that really has the power of an owner, that has the empathy of an owner, that can really relate to, the customer on that basis and have the power to, and this was something, I don't know if my dad said it or whatever, but he always used to say, and this is back when $1,000 meant something. It doesn't mean shit now, but if you have to eat $1,000 to make something right, you better enjoy the way it tastes because it'll be the best $1,000 you ever spent. And that's always the philosophy I always had in business. We don't charge for petty fees. We never charge for delivery. We never charge for haul away. We don't squabble. If somebody has an issue with us, we're going to fix it no matter if we take a loss or not. We're not trying to talk our way backwards out of every reason why we're going to deny a warranty. We're going to try everything we can, even if the customer is wrong, which, most of the time they're right. I hate to say it, but I mean, they're like, if they have a legitimate complaint about a failure in something, there's some merit to that. Sometimes you just get, the princess and the pea folks, and there's some weird little minuscule issue and you can't figure it out and you can't make them happy. And in that case, we're not above, we weren't above giving full refund and just saying, here's your stuff, you can have it. And they'd look at you like, what, is this dude nuts? I mean, you're going to give me a $3,000 refund and let me keep the sofa? Yeah, I mean, dude, we want to make you happy and I can't make you happy. So I'm going to, and I can't resell this used sofa. So yeah, that's what we're going to do, And so we started with that though. So going back, we just jumped into this new business in Nye Beach, filled it full of, at the time, it's kind of laughable because it's, pretty low quality furniture. It's what we had. And, we couldn't hook big vendors at the time. We didn't have big buying budgets and whatever. Some cool liquidations that were higher quality, but, and I think our first we had a cheap mattress vendor, and then our first real one was Oregon Made Englander, who became a great partner of ours. And, but we were so stoked to have a local USA made name brand, mattress dealer. And their rep, he set us up, sold us, still a friend of mine to this day, even though we're not in that business anymore. We text and chat, super cool dude. And then, then we later became, so we did that. We opened and we were successful overnight. Like week one, I remember Mariah and I, and it was just us. Like I think we might've had one or two helpers, but it was pretty quiet. And that was like the glory days of no overhead. And I probably should have just left it alone, because I would have been really happy with that. And so, and we're, you go in and you make like and again, like things are different, and now the big overhead, you got to sell $10,000 a day to pay the bills. But, back then you'd be like, yeah, I made an $1,800 sale. This is sweet. And, and you're counting your dollars and you're, all excited. But we just started. We didn't know shit about, for lack of really, we had no consultants. We didn't have anybody telling us what to do. We just started a freaking furniture store, and it was like maybe 3-4 months that we knew we had to get more warehouse space. We were like bursting at the seams. We couldn't keep up. That quick. It was that quick. We started in, it might have been like March-ish where we were like full official, maybe just before February. And it was crazy.
So furniture sells that well.
It does. You got to remember too, now there's a bigger presence. Well, kind of, with the shortages, it's kind of gone full circle, but you have things like Amazon and Wayfair, and you have other players now and Costco. But back then people were still a little more leery of the internet. I know that's only 7 years ago or whatever that is that we started, but the consumers were a little more leery of online purchase.
Yeah.
And they trusted us too, because you got to remember, I've been in this community for a long time. I grew up in that store. So I had that going on. They're like, well, we know this guy and he's a solid guy. He's been helping us out for a long time with whatever our needs were. He was there, and that was kind of always our presence. We're very local. We're very ground level. We're working class. We're on the street with these people, and again, I've always dabbled in real estate and construction and other fields and know everybody around here, and from one way or another, as much as I hate to admit it, we all got a story, and so I knew, and a lot of people unfortunately are gone or passed on or whatever. A lot of the neighborhood has changed from when I was a kid, or even back then, in the 2000s or 2010, 2011, 2012. You had a lot of really cool little trendy restaurants that are gone now, like Mundo and, some of the other places. I can't even remember the name of the pizza place, but Big Mike's Pizza Place was down there, and, Big Mike's no longer with us. And those guys were my friends. A lot of people doesn't know this, but Big Mike worked for Factory Mattress Warehouse, which we bought out all their contracts, or not all their contracts, but we became a Sealy dealer after they left, Night and Day dealer. So we absorbed some of their vendors that were open after they left. And so Big Mike used to deliver mattresses for them, and he used to hook me up with, some of back when I was in secondhand, some of the Holloway furniture, stuff like that. And, and then he started the pizza place down there, and, I'd go down and have margaritas and eat pizza and bullshit with him and tell stories. And so that was hard when he passed, and then those things change, and so those little watering holes, those like the places you go to and everybody, and and it's kind of weird. We went to, I think it was Pacific Kitchen, I don't know, maybe 2-3 months ago. We snuck in on like a winter afternoon, me and Mariah, and I think I got a bowl of chowder and a margarita or something like that. And I'm like, I don't know any of the servers. I don't know anybody sitting at the bar. I don't know anybody in here. And it was like, I felt like I was in a foreign, like, I could have been in Coos Bay or Seaside or anywhere, and that's weird to me because that's my home neighborhood, that would have never happened even 5 years ago. And so, and like where you don't recognize the servers because it's the next generation, it's these kids that were, going to high school 10 years ago or whatever. And now they're servers and bartenders and whatever. And, and yeah, they might recognize me from around the way or some of my school volunteer stuff or whatever, but I don't know who they are, it's like I knew their parents probably, and so, but, No, so I know I jump over a lot of the place talking about history and things like that. But so going to the one store. So we had the one store. We knew instantly we needed more. And then the Walport location, the dude that owned that, I had some experience with him. He's an interesting character. We'll say he's from India originally, so East Indian. And in his, I'll even say his name because it's not private. His name is Eastern Indian named Roy, and this dude was a character. I've known him through the vintage, secondhand store back when I used to sell appliances. I mean, this guy, like, he is the ultimate of like, I don't know if he got some money somewhere or did some deals, but really financially and real estate wise, probably should never own anything ever. And so
just couldn't handle.
No. Yeah. And just almost a character out of a movie, honestly.
Yeah.
He happens to own what is our Walport building now, that whole corner basically down in Walport, that beautiful storefront. I think what is 110 feet of windows. I mean, 12,800 square feet of retail. It was a furniture store for 30 some years. He bought it when the furniture store went bankrupt. And then it was like an antique store for a long time. Then it was an antique mall. And then when I came along, it was actually sitting vacant for about 3 or 4 years. And again, it was recession time, kind of, but this was kind of past the recession, but it was in such odd shape. It was not good. It hadn't been touched much. It was pretty hokey. And there was some definite hazards and stuff. And so it had come for lease. And so I thought, you know what? It's a real shithole, for lack of a better term. But I'm going to call this dude up. And because I saw the sign, I just said, I'm going to call him. And then it turns out I know him. He's like, yeah, come down. I can't do an Eastern accent.
But he had it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, dude. Oh, completely. And yeah, and sometimes can't even hardly understand the guy. He's hilarious, right? And then he explains to me, his name's Roy, and I guess his dad was a big Western fan back in India, and so I think it was Roy Rogers is who
he was Roy Rogers.
That's who he's named after, right?
Man.
So yeah, so
Roy
that's because I said, man, that's a strange name for a guy from India,
I was
right?
thinking the same thing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and so you got to ask it. You're like, wow, how does a guy from India name, Roy? Is that like, and I've had some other friends from India and like, that'll just go, oh, call me PJ or, an initial or something because you can't pronounce their name.
Oh, yeah.
Totally. And they're cool with it, and so some of the coolest people I've ever worked with, and so. So I get down there and I'm like, oh, dude, and I'm on the phone with the guy, so I don't know who he is until I get there. And then I'm like, oh, yeah. And then he's like practically begging me. At this point, it's just for lease. He's practically begging me to lease this place, right? But then I go in and it's a nightmare. I mean, nobody's been in this thing for 4 or 5 years. There's weeds growing up 4 feet tall out of the sidewalk. The dirt is so thick on the front windows, you can, scrape it off. I mean, with the scraper. It's crazy. And it's bad. It stinks. Like it had a roof failure. He had tried to do some weird makeshift roof on it. Again, not professional, just putting it nicely. And he's back there, scraping and, pretending like he's doing something, whatever, right? He's always busy, but never doing anything. And so,
never doing it.
And so he's, and I said, well, I'm not a lease guy. I'd like to buy it. I got some real estate working around and I'll free some money up. And he says, well, I'll tell you what, I'll sell it to you for a certain price, which was a good deal. I mean, wasn't a great deal. Now looking back on it, it was a good deal, with the real estate inflation. But at the time, it was like, and the lease was cheap. But he says, I'll give you 2 years, and then this is the purchase price. And I said, perfect. It'll give me time to wrap up my deals. And let me move this a little closer, huh? I see you evil looking me over there.
I'm totally not even evil looking you.
Okay.
I'm just listening.
Yeah. I got to drink some more beer here, too. So
take a sip here. I'll take a turn.
Yeah.
All right, I got nothing to say about it. Yeah, I did actually. No, you just carry on. Actually, what were you talking about?
Talking about Roy Rogers from India.
That's right. Can't handle his money.
No, you know what? I think he's probably good with his money. He's just not a good real estate investor, and so God bless him. But anyway, so he says, "I'll give you 2 years," and it's cheap, dude. I mean, the lease is like it's so cheap that I can't even rent a closet in a basement in Newport for what he's going to give me 12,000 feet for, right? And Mariah she walks into this thing and she goes, "You're nuts. There's no way."
Because it's so overpriced.
No, it's underpriced.
Underpriced.
It's free, dude.
It's free?
It's almost free. Yeah. I'm not going to say what, but I'm going to say that
building that in Waldport.
Yeah.
That's a big building.
It's huge. But again, he's not willing to do anything. And it needs new carpet, needs some paint inside. And so I look at it and say, I can put up, and our famous thing for covering ugly walls is hanging area rugs. So we clamp area rugs and it makes the walls look beautiful and colorful. So I'm like, you know what? I'll build temp walls. I can't fill up 12,800 feet anyway, because here I am operating this one tiny little store out of Nye Beach, right? And I do have some stuff. I mean, I'm still stacking deals, right? I got inventory. Not enough to fill that, but enough to where if I walled off, say, half of it and clean the windows and put new carpet in, and I can afford to put carpet in half. If I could buy 5,000 square feet of carpet and I could fix it up and whatever. So I convinced Mariah. I have no idea. There's no way I could do that today. So I think back when we were first we weren't together that long, and I think she still liked me. So we're nestled into nice marriage now. So it's kind of like, if I came up with an idea like that now, she would just look at me and go ahead, but I'm not going to help you. Like, I'm not going to have any part of that. So, that's the look I get, like whatever,
I've seen that look.
Oh, you have seen it, dude. Yeah.
Great.
You've definitely seen that look.
It's been great.
Like
you and the cows, like, you told me.
Right. Oh, dude. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, whatever. So anyway, I convince her, we do it, and we put some work into this thing. I mean, we did all the work ourselves. We kept it in-house, had some of our guys, probably put, and at the time, it seemed like a lot of money. It probably was like $25,000, $30,000, and, but, we were just one little hole in the wall, 2,500 square foot store in Nye Beach at that time. And yeah, I had some real estate capital and I had some other stuff going on, but that's still a lot of money to just throw out into a rental. We had a lease option, but it was a handshake. I mean, at best, it was not, and again, I'm just a crazy gambler, serial entrepreneur. Like
serial entrepreneur.
Anybody else would look at you and go, wow, you're nuts, dude. You're just throwing a gamble on somebody else's, and this place was bad when we got it. It was bad. And so we did it. Took us about a month or so, walled off the back, brought what we could. And I don't even think, we might have got 5,000 square feet done, maybe. And we started buying some truckloads of sofas and other stuff and just throw it in. And same thing, we did a little grand opening. And it was, I would say the thing that attracted me the most is the money was about what we expected. It was the community support in South County. That community, there's been so many businesses come and go, and nobody's been consistent and stable, especially through the recession. And people were just stoked to have an option that they didn't have to go to Newport or the Valley for. And so the community support there between, just regular individuals, local government, they are so open to small business, so welcoming that I instantly was like, I felt a little foreign because here I've been operating in Newport where, I'm not a big player up here. I never have been, right? I mean, I'm just dabbling and I don't ever claim to be, but I've never really felt, of course, I know some of the counselors that, and obviously know the mayor and stuff. They're always friendly to me, and I've always had I've never had not any horrible interaction with like planning department or anything like that, but I've never had a city official come to me and be like, hey, thanks for cleaning this place up, and which I've done quite a few of here in Newport, by the way. Homes and commercial and other stuff and little facelifts and little cleanups. And, our record kind of speaks for itself. And never had any of that. Nobody's ever said, oh, wow, we really love what you're doing. It's cool. I mean, a lot of citizens and stuff have, but never officials. There, people were coming down and like, oh, my God, thanks for doing this. And this is the Keystone corner of Waldport. And, there's been no business here for 4 years. And now you got the lights on and the windows washed. And so for me, it was really almost emotional. It was overwhelming. I lived in Walport for a small stint when I was about 18 and 19. I was kind of in between things. I roommated with somebody for, more couch surfing than anything really. And so I recall that from Walport. Even back then, it was even more like the community, the sense of community there, so much different than, almost any other coastal community. A lot of multiple generations there. People really genuinely appreciate local business and that sense of community. So it was really emotional, and I felt it, and I knew right then. And I said, we were open for only a few months, and I told Mariah, I said, and she wasn't happy, and I said, we have to buy this building, and we got to figure this out. And luckily, after about a year into our lease, I get a call from Roy, and he says, well, I've decided that I don't want to give you 2 years. I'm either going to list it or you can buy it now. And so I'm like, okay, I'm finishing up a property that I have a private loan on that has a ton of equity in it. And I had the equity. I didn't have the liquid capital. And then another one, a lot of people don't know this because it was a short stint and it was nowhere near what Brody has done, but I owned the Newport Brewing property for about a year. And so I bought it, and I was going to, I didn't really know. I had several ideas. I was going to use it for maybe retail. I wanted to do storage, but City of Newport wouldn't let me store stuff there. And so
that's bizarre.
Oh yeah, zoning.
You can't put stuff.
Yeah, because it's like literally like 200 feet from different zoning that says I could warehouse there. Yeah. So
how is warehousing going to hurt anybody? You should be able to put, if you just store
which
stuff,
should be much lower impact than say retail.
Yeah.
Or what's there now,
it's like
right?
Zero.
Right.
Well, I guess if you're hauling stuff constantly. Anyway.
So I got a really good deal from it. Brody brokered the original deal, and he kind of expressed some interest then, but he's like me, and even more so, he's always buying and selling properties. And so I told him, I'm like, and so when this deal came up, I needed my money back. I'm like, well, and I was into it for really, really, really cheap, and so, and again, this was before the crazy, this last couple of years has gone nuts. And so I was into it. I put, believe it or not, that was an existing warehouse since 1960 something there. Well, it was always kind of connected from what I was told to the upper property. Well, that never had water and sewer there. So I paid the crazy expensive system development fees. I put the water meter in, I put water there. I didn't hook up the sewer because I wasn't there yet, and I was going to do paving and other stuff in the parking lot. But I paid the system. I paid the fees. So I paid it was there. It was set up, permitted, ready to go, right? So I did that. I had some carrying cost. And so I knew Brody was interested, and he had this vision for what became now Newport Brewing, which is super cool. I mean, I'm so glad
cool.
Yeah, I'm so glad it worked out the way it did because, I probably would have done nowhere near the remodel that he put on that place. Either flipped it, sold it to somebody, and it'd probably be some stupid, gallery or boutique or something that's not cool, like a brewery, So,
oh yeah,
yeah. So, and then I'm like, dude, I just want my money back, and he knew what I paid for it, right? And so, he was closing some deals, so I got the money back on that, and then I closed, and then I think I maybe sold another house, or I paid off the private loan, which gave me a bunch of equity. And by the grace of God, we freaking did this deal, and we bought that place. And I think he called me on maybe June 15th, and we were closed by like July 7th. It was quick. And so we finagled. So I lost my Newport Brewing property. No, I didn't lose it. But, I was like, I always have these visions of like I buy places. And that was also one Mariah was not a fan of. Because I was kind of flirting with Brody and the owner of it, and I was like, well, I'd be a buyer at this. And then they called me back one day and go, okay. And then I'm like, oh. So then I'm like, you can't say no when they accept your verbal offer, right?
Your verbal offer, you're just
right.
kind of messing around.
I was,
though.
joking
around.
Yeah. And it was cheap. I mean,
Yeah.
it was cheap.
Yeah.
This was back when you could buy property for cheap in Newport. And, I bet you that property today, even as is when I bought it, it's probably be, just the bare land is $500,000 probably now, just before the improvements.
I mean, that's a sweet spot because you're like kind of far away from a lot of the crazy of the Bayfront.
Right. Yeah. And
but you're right there by the Bayfront.
And
still.
you got shared public parking, so you got
a ton of
City
parking.
of Newport parking right next to you. So,
Yeah.
And there's parking there on hand too. So it really came out great. And what Brody did with it was amazing. I mean, every time I go in there, I'm in awe of the remodel and what it's become, especially recently. We were in there sharing some drinks. I think it was last weekend and chucking it up. And I'm just, amazed at I'm so proud of him because like what's happened with, you get the pandemic and everything. I mean, he literally started this thing like what, 3-4 months?
It was like right before the pandemic.
Yeah. And then here you're handed this like, oh, I'm starting this restaurant brewery. And then this happens, right?
Oh,
I mean,
what a
and I remember like
face.
going there buying takeout and it was just him and his wife, and like they're, to-go beers and a cheeseburger.
Yeah.
And we were doing that just so we weren't stuck at home, like, whatever. And so once we realized we weren't going to all die, from, going broke.
Yeah, how
and
long
stuff.
was that? Like 2 weeks? Like, 2 weeks.
I think I'm so naive and a little more sheltered. I think I was a little bit more like, and I was honestly enjoying the solitude and not really listening to the noise. So I think I was good up until about maybe May. I mean, I had a little bit like although I was never a masker, I never really bought into the whole, like, I was the last holdout. Like before they mandated, I'd go into the supermarket and people look at me like I was a zombie, because I'm like just some random dude walking around without a mask. And
you're like,
and so, and I mean, I'm not trying to be a dick and spread it or anything. I just, it was like, for me, it was a personal choice of like, hey, I'm not really around other people. At this point, I go to the supermarket, I come home, I do my thing. And I'm kind of like one of those odd people that wants to be exposed to germs and viruses to build natural immunities. I mean, again, I'm not a doctor and I'm not promoting that, but that's just me. I'm around germs every single day. I have 4 kids. I have, pigs and cows and dogs, and, we're exposed to all kinds of stuff every single day.
Well, I mean, and the thing is that they don't talk about is that being stressed about it, walking on eggshells, which is what used to be me all the time. And then that actually weakens your immune system. And it doesn't matter. The table doesn't. There's rings on this table. It's a nice table.
This is a nice table.
It's a super nice table, but I've actually been denting it with the mic stands, and I'm just like, nobody cares.
No.
Nobody cares. Like,
no, it is nice. I feel like we should be negotiating something, or we
it
should be
does.
signing papers.
Yeah, we should be signing the Declaration of Independence or something.
Or some closing documents for some real estate or something. You got, like, give me a nice fancy gold pen. So we closed a bunch of deals this last year, and it got to the point where I had like 4 or 5 Western title pens in my truck, and I'm like,
oh, dude.
Because like first time home buyers, you get one and they like save them and they put them in a package.
Oh, special pen.
Well,
is it like, is it made of wood?
No, it's what they're just, anymore they're actually, they're a nice pen, but it used to be, ceremonial almost. And it still might be for a first time buyer, but when you get in and you're in there every 5 days, and you're just sign.
You'd have like 1,000 pens.
Well, yeah, no, not 1,000, but we decided to downsize this. Let's rewind again. So we bought Walport, set it up, loved the community, went crazy down there. Ended up just really deciding I personally liked that atmosphere more, so I spent more personal time in Walport than I did Newport, and then when we had the Lincoln City store, I hated Lincoln City store, hated it.
The one at the
mall, yeah.
Even though it was a beautiful store, you still hated it.
Yeah,
it's because you had to drive through Lincoln City, because that's the worst part of Lincoln City.
Part of it was the commute, and then the hours of operation.
Oh, it was long hours.
And then it was just weird for me. It was very clinical. It felt like it was almost too nice, and I'm a little rough around the edges, So all my other places are in these old vintage buildings that are.
Oh yeah.
We have this
kind of smell a little funny.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The character, right?
Yeah.
And so this is this beautiful modern space, and obviously a very swanky location, I guess, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so then, but I was sick of it. So we decided, we're like, okay, so we have this epiphany, and Mariah and I was miserable. We go to Sun River. We have a weekender, her and I. We drive over there. It's wintertime. Our lease is coming soon, right? We have to make a decision. We're going to renew I think we had a 3-year option and a 5-year option for a certain rate. Percentage of gross, which is nice when you're in retail, because you make money, they make money. You don't, they don't. You have a what they call a basement and a ceiling. You have a minimum price. You say, well, if you don't sell this, it's going to be, minimum of $2,500 and a maximum of $7,500, but it's a percentage of gross in between there, whatever. Those aren't my exact numbers, but it was somewhere in there. I think it was more like 3,500 or 85 or 95, somewhere in that range, but it's always a percentage, maybe 6% or something. which I liked. I negotiated that lease in the beginning. I was happy with it. You know, it worked with our overhead, you know. And so that was good. But at the end of the day, it was Ryan's store. We built the store for Ryan.
Really?
Yeah. He's a young kid. He was young at the time when I hired him. Came from St. Louis, Missouri.
Really?
Yeah. So he has some family here. He has some aunts and uncles, and I know them. I'm almost related in a weird way. He's half related to my brother's. They weren't even married, but I always consider her as my brother's first wife. My first niece.
Yeah.
So the mother of my first niece. So he's around somehow married to them, or related by marriage, whatever, right? And I consider them as part of my family as well. And I don't have a big family out here. And so I believe it was Melanie, who worked for us at the time, that said, "Hey, if you're looking for an extra guy, this kid wants to move back to Oregon. He's been working for like Matt Firm or one of those corporate deals, and he's out here for Christmas." So I said, "Send him down." So he drove down. I'm down at Walport. You know, it gets dark at 4:30. It's pitch black. You know, he rolls in, and he's this kind of, you know, jovial kid. You know, it comes up. He's got a smile that melts the room. You know, and he is just, he has it, right? I mean, sometimes you meet somebody and you're like, he wasn't typical. He wasn't stereotypical, but I know, like, you know, if I can sit down with somebody, I generally know whether or not they have it. And he had it. And I saw it. You know, I'm like, wow, this kid he's not overly confident. He's humble. He's got the empathy. He's got all those things that I appreciate in not just a salesperson, but a friend, you know, a family member. And I think I said to him, "Hey," you know, and he's back in Missouri, or as he says, Missouri, or people from there, right? So, and he goes, "Dude," he goes, I'll go pack my car up and I'll be over here again. No, it was Thanksgiving. He goes, "Dude, I'll go over there. I'll go home. I'll put in my 30-day notice at my apartment, and I'll quit my job and I'll pack my car and I'll be here January 1st." You know, or no, he was going to leave January 1st and be here, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Drive across the country.
Yeah.
You know, and to come work for you, dude.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I love this kid in his spirit, you know, and he was a kid. You know, we brought him in as a sales guy, and you know, I think Mariah was a little tough on him. She's tough on everybody. She always expects more out of everybody, me included.
Yeah.
And so she's always everybody's biggest critic, and it's not. She's not doing it to be rude or a bitch or anything. That's her, you know. And I always have to remind her that, like, you know, people are people, you know, and so she's always has higher expectations, you know, that I don't know, you know, and it's for good generally, and so I think, you know, there was a little frustration between them two in the beginning, but I'm always the buffer, you know, like, "Hey, chill out. It's cool. You know, we'll teach him. And then what he's not good at, we'll teach him." And then, because he had all of that and he had the dedication from the beginning, and he worked for us for maybe 2 years. And then he had a little opportunity to go out to the valley for another relative to do some flooring stuff, which ended up not panning out. It was like his family had a company and he was going to take that company over. And somehow it went south, and he ended up like selling flooring at a wholesale place out of Eugene. And I'm like, and that's when we were going to start the Lincoln City store. I'm like, "Dude, what are you doing?" You know, like, so I literally said, "I have an opportunity. I'm not going to manage it. I'm not going to take it, but if you want a store, I will fucking build you a store. You know, like, I will put this store together. I'll invest." You know, I think we invested $250,000 or something into this thing. I said, "Well, I'll make the investment and I'll help you as much as I can, but it's ultimately your store. When you have a customer service issue, it's your issue, not mine." You know, and for the most part, he did. Sometimes things would get to me. You know, I think we ruined somebody's floor once and stuff like that. And we had to, you know, send a contractor friend over to fix it or whatever. And so, you know, but for the most part, I saw it. He was salary plus, I don't know if we were doing salary plus percentage at that point. I think we were. And he was doing good. You know, he was making good money for a kid, a lot more than he was selling flooring. And, but he was putting in the hours. He was putting in the time. He had the pride of ownership. He was there. But at the end of the day, he was getting frustrated with the amount of hours. You know, for the amount of hours we were putting in wasn't quite worth the payoff, you know, for any of us, really. And even though it made money, and that's the funny thing is any investor that looks at it and goes, oh my God, anybody would kill to have this business that makes money. What are you guys doing? So Mariah and I, so now we're fast forward. We're into it. We set it up. He's doing good, but we're all getting frustrated with the hours. Also really difficult even back then before the shortages to find employees that wanted to work. We just had a nightmare. We were warned with the Lincoln City area that it was difficult to find labor up there before. We had hired a couple locals and had some mild success with that. And then we had some just really horror stories as well. I think we had one get arrested on site.
Wow.
You know,
on site.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's not good.
No, and nothing to relate to, just like a hit and run that he had done, you know, previous somewhere, and they were like, "Hey, does such and such work for you?" And they took him out in handcuffs. Yeah, so I think I had asked him to go out the back or something, but I'm like, "Can you not take him? Can you let him take his company shirt off first?" I mean, you know, so no, that was a nightmare, and it was just, and we were spread thin. I felt like our uniqueness of our Newport and Walport store was suffering because we were getting called up more because of the successes and and then another thing that we didn't realize either is that we actually, this is something that I have never shared publicly, but that store never sold a lot locally. Most of the stuff we sold out of that store, like the high-end Tempur-Pedics, things like that, we're actually going back to the Valley. And so we had a once-a-week delivery crew that was going to the Valley and Portland Metro. So believe it or not, that store was servicing Lincoln City, up through the corridor, Grand Ron, Dallas, Salem, many of our large ticket items.
Wait, you're saying that like these people who probably had a lot available where they were coming to the coast and buying it, or were you saying that you had what they didn't have and they were coming and buying it?
Probably a combo. You know, I will tell you that Tempur-Pedic is a phenomenal, you know, they're the creme de la creme of mattresses.
Oh, yeah,
right?
Totally.
And so we had a very beautiful Tempur-Pedic display up there. And so people would come up, they're on vacation, you know, they've maybe had a few cocktails the night before, or maybe even the day of. You know, they go there and they lay on the Tempur-Pedic display and they go, oh my God, I've heard of these and this is wonderful. You know, you put them in the zero gravity position, you put the massage on, you know, you set them down and they're, you know, you used to sell Vitamix, right? I mean, So you get it, dude. I mean, that's a very similar sale, right? Except for Tempur-Pedic is like times 5 or more.
Oh, come on. Vitamix is time, you know, like,
no, I
get
mean,
your ninja and shove it up your arse.
But dollar wise is what I'm saying. You know, it's like you can get 10 G's into a Tempur. You know, maybe actually more.
Yeah, that's preposterous. Really, $10,000?
Oh yeah.
Wait. Do you have like a $5,000 version?
They have, yeah. I mean, I think that when we left, the cheapest Queen Tempur-Pedic was around $2,150 or $2,180.
So take that.
And that's a Queen mattress, the one mattress. So that's the cheapest mattress, and that is like.
Is that good?
I don't like it.
Oh, you're a mattress snob.
Oh, dude.
Oh, mattress snob.
Oh, I am such a mattress snob.
You sleep
I
on
actually slept. I had a Tempur-Pedic for a long time, and I sleep on. So we have split kings. My wife and I do. So it's two twin XLs married together as one king, and I actually sleep on a high-end Sealy hybrid, and she still sleeps on a Tempur-Pedic, but. I've just kind of grown to, like, I really know what I like. In this particular version of the Sealy Hybrid, it's just, whew. I mean, it gets me. I almost can't sleep on vacation. I got to take, you know, I'm like.
Oh, man, you're right, because who knows what the heck you're going to end up on.
Well, they're just some cheap commercial mattress. I mean, even when you go to high-end Hiltons and stuff like that, they're not giving you anything special. I mean, it's all budget.
Yeah.
So, no.
But you're right, though. Mattresses, like, at one point, I spent a little money on a new mattress.
Right.
And for me, it was just, like, a new mattress of varying.
Right.
You know, like,
right.
But like your sleep is so important.
It is.
And you're like, so your $10,000 mattress is like, you're going to sleep really well.
We've had people come to us that buy a beach house that are only going to be here 3 or 4 weekends a year.
Yeah.
And because at their house in LA or in Vegas, they sleep on a Tempur, Lux, Adapt, whatever. They buy it for their beach house.
Yeah.
Because that's what they sleep on. And they don't want to feel any different than at their beach house.
Oh, yeah.
And they don't care, and so, but that's Tempur-Pedic was always that's an acquired, you know, and that's, you're not going to sell those every day, you know. I mean, there are people.
It's like selling a hot tub.
You have to be good. There are. I mean, if you have the right salespeople, absolutely.
Yeah.
But that store, a mall store, that's where you sell Tempur-Pedics. And we were selling them. I mean, we delivered to Roseburg. We delivered to Eugene. We delivered to Portland. Again, Dallas, Grand Ronde, McMinnville. I mean, we were delivering all over out of that store. And we added it up. Over 60% of our revenue was going out of the county. We were going all the way back into Tillamook, which are other people's markets. So we're going all over the place. And so we knew that was frustrating, because that increased our overhead, because now we're sending an exclusive delivery truck of 2 guys once or twice a week out of the area, way out of the area, right? And you got to imagine, this was back when fuel was cheap and it was still expensive.
Yeah.
So, I mean, 2 guys in a delivery truck, you know, you're talking overhead of about $500 a day, you know, with fuel and wear and tear and labor and everything else, right? So that's just one thing. It was frustrating. And again, most people would be like, well, these are all good problems to have. You guys are successful and making money. Well, yeah, it's great. But so Mariah and I go to Sun River. We're just exhausted. We're exhausted. We're burned out. We don't want to do this anymore. And this is actually, so I'll touch on this later, but her and I are both athletic coaches too. And so this was just right after our athletic season. So we're grinding full time. I'm working full weekends. We're coaching full time. You know, we're taking care of 4 kids. You know, we got all this going on. So we go to Sun River. I don't even think we left the condo. I mean, maybe once or twice we went to the brewery or something. But I think we literally, like, one night we just sat there and got drunk and watched, like, I don't know, Steve Harvey or something. You know, we're just chilling. And we looked at each other. And we kind of created a monster. We had all these employees. We had all these buildings. And I go, dude, I don't think I want to do this anymore. I know we can't stop. We can't stop tomorrow. But, like, what does it take? Like, what do we do to scale this back? You know? And I said, I think the conversation with Ryan is, so the conversation would be, let's not renew the lease in Lincoln City. Let's bring the inventory back to Newport. It's a lot of inventory sitting up there. Again, probably $250,000. So let's bring that back to Newport and Walport. Let's put Ryan at my job as the GM of the whole company.
Yeah.
I'll step away, do more real estate construction work.
And this is like mid-pandemic?
Not even. This is late 2019 coming into early 2020.
Okay. So just before.
Just before. So we're going, we call Ryan over to the house. We have him to the house, and he knows it's weird. Like, if you're having it at the house, I mean, he knows something's weird, right? And so we tell him, and he's like so relieved. He's like, really? And I said, and I'm going to give you a raise. I said, I'll give you, I can't remember, but I said, I go, you're going to take my job, and I'm going to step away, and I am just going to be a remote owner, and you're going to be the new GM of the whole company. And so I said, you can bring me in for employee issues and weird stuff, and I'll still be, you know, I'll help manage the employees, but I don't want to take a customer service call ever again. You know my philosophies. I don't want to deal with problem customers. I don't want Joe, you know, Schmo calling me and saying, hey, remember back in 5th grade and we got in that tussle, can you give me a 20% discount? I don't.
Did that happen?
Well, everybody knows Abe, you know, and so I will say that, like, the employees have a joke because, you know, obviously my name's Abe, right? And then one of the sales ladies would say, it's always funny because, you know, some people call me Gabe, right?
Oh,
and so then they would be like, well, I know Gabe, we go way back. And then she'd be like, well, his name's Abe, so you must not know him too well, you know, and they all want, you know, some special deal, right? You know, cause I'm known for my special, you know, like, hey, I'll take care of you.
Yeah, Gabe.
Yeah. Right. I'll throw in this, right? So anyway, so we're excited. We call Ryan up, and he is, like, stoked. We're like, whoa. He's like, yeah, shut this fucker down. Let's close it down, dude. And we're kind of like, wow, you're, like, right on board, you know. But he's that guy, you know. He gets it. You know, we feel the frustration. He feels it. That's how we knew we were making the right decision. And at that time, I didn't really have my plan to go out and get my contractor's license. I just knew, like, at this point, I'm holding some real estate too, by the way. I mean, I've accumulated some stuff. You know, not a ton, but I'm probably sitting on 8, 9, 10 properties. And some of them need some work. Some of them need to be finished. And the real estate market's starting to poke up and excite me. And I'm thinking, well, I can finish these and sell them. And, you know, I can use that money to develop our hobby farm, you know, and funnel the money over there. And, you know, which is also owned by our investment company. And then I'm just thinking, I don't have a plan. I'm just thinking we're going to own these stores. Ryan's going to manage them. They're producing enough money for me to really do, you know, I won't say to do whatever I want, but for the most part, I'm not a lavish guy. So, you know, they're paying all of my bills, even with him managing and me not being there. And then whatever I'm doing on the side with my real estate stuff is a bonus. So that's the plan. 2019, 1st of 2020, January 2020. And so the leasing company at this point is like, they're doing anything. They're like, hey, we'll give you another 6 months for free. You know, they just want us, right? I mean, they're counting me, you know, and I'm finally like, bro. And I even said, I go, you could give me 2 years for free and I wouldn't stay. And then it was the guy who wrote our original lease, I think from Chicago, super young kid, cool guy, right? Kind of beyond the corporate bullshit. And he's like, I know your answer, but he's like, they sent me because I'm the guy who created your lease to give me the final. And I said, bro, we're done. You know, I'm done. I'm retiring. You know, I'm like, I knew then, I'm like, I just don't want to be in the public anymore. I kind of oversold myself and I was too exposed. And I had some social anxiety and some stuff that I'd never really dealt with in my younger years because I just compartmentalized my day to day that was affecting my health and my sleep. And, you know, I'm a problem solver and a fixer. And so I just do it. And then I don't really realize the toll it was taking on me. And it was really taking a toll on me. So that was the ultimate decision maker of me stepping away from the public eye, not being the face of the stores anymore. And then giving Ryan the opportunity and not really, like, we kind of mentioned, we said, well, if you do really good, maybe eventually we'll sell them to you, you know? And so, and that was just really an off the cuff. That wasn't even a thing when we made this deal. And, then I think we went down to, we spent a couple winters. We'd like to go like January-ish and go down to like, you know, generally somewhere warm and nice. And we'd been spending some time in Carlsbad and San Diego. And we went down for about 10 days. And matter of fact, I was in LAX when the first COVID case came through. And I got all the COVID-like symptoms like right when I got home. So it was funny because it wasn't even a thing. And then about 2-3 weeks later, it starts hitting. People were talking about the symptoms. And I'm like, wait a second, I've been sick for 3 weeks, hacking my freaking face off and had this fever and all this other shit, you know. And so, and I was in close proximity, right? He flew to Seattle. I flew to Portland. We were in the same wing.
Oh, Seattle. That's where a bunch of it started here.
Oh, that's where it started, dude. Yeah. And the dude flew in to LAX and then got a connector to Seattle. We were on the same day, the same time, in the same wing, right? So anyway, I mean, you know, whether or not I was exposed to it in the beginning or not, who knows? Who cares? But, you know, so we're there and we get it. And, you know, it's no big deal. But it's starting to kind of surface. And, you know, we're just, again, I'm like, well, whatever. We're working, right? And so Ryan's taken over. Like, we get out of, you know, we're decided, we kind of amplified and went quick. We decided we're going to close this thing down and move him down. And I want to say, might have been the end of January, like the 31st or whatever. There is 30 days. I don't know what it is. But so we closed, I think it was January 30th. It might have been February, something. Might have been a weird day, February 10th. And we were just like, but people were like, what are you doing? You know, are you going to give any deals? I'm like, no, I mean, I could sell this stuff for full price at my other store. Why would I discount it here? Just all I got to do is move it. You know, it's like I can discount it, you know, 5% for moving it, but, you know, that doesn't get anybody excited, right? It's not but there were certain things. I think we let Ryan do like a week of like floor model closeouts that we didn't want to take. We were like, you know what? I got 4 of those in the warehouse. I don't want to move it. You know, so we went through and did it. And then a bunch of display models we knew we didn't want to have duplicates of. So we did some floor model sales and stuff. And that's what we did. So we went into like, I don't know, maybe like 7 to 10 days into February. And then, so got back from LA, helped Ryan with those final days, kind of pushed him into his new role, had him shadow me for a week or two. And he was doing great. And matter of fact, he was like, wow, this is easy. You know, it's like, I don't have to go and babysit a store, but he'd have to cover a shift or two or a partial. Somebody's kid would get sick and they'd have to go home. And so he'd have to run down and cover a retail shift or something, whatever. And so then we decided we were going to go crazy on the farm. That's when we started the development on the farm. There was nothing there. It was bare land. And, we hadn't even started playing with dirt or anything at that point. And we had a friend of ours owns a small logging company out of Eddyville, and they let us borrow their dozer. So we had their dozer on hand, which was just a small one, but it moves earth, and you can only do so much though. I mean, like you can't, like an excavator, you can pull dirt down and stuff. So Matt and I were just doing some small dozer logging and cleaning, and Ryan's at the store, and we're kind of just like, wow, we don't really have anything to do. Let's go play with dirt. And and this was like, I didn't really know what to do with myself because I'd never really had this kind of luxury or free time because I've always been tethered to retail for this point, like 13, 14 years straight of almost 7 days a week, 12, 13, 14 hours a day or more. You're going to be laying in bed at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, and you get an email you got to respond to because it's an emergency with a vendor or a customer with a problem or whatever. And so having this time was a little odd for me. And I remember it very vividly. We're working and we leased a big excavator from Newport Rental, and we had the big machine up there, and we had the dozer, and we were just going to town. Matt and I were just rocking and rolling and fucking moving dirt and when we rent those machines, we want every penny. So we're like 12, 14 hours a day, lights on, and and so this is it's probably March 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, somewhere in there, and I don't know if we leased it for a week, 5 days, whatever. But I mean, we're digging, like we're moving. So we're finally like getting a vision. It's totally changed since then, by the way. But we had an original vision of like, well, that's a big hill. That's a big hole. Let's start putting it into the hole. And so and not really, like both of us were pretty green at machines at this point, right? And it's hard to believe it's only 2 years ago. And so we're there, and I'll never forget, Mariah was kind of, coming and going. We didn't have the tiny home up there. We had nothing. We had almost no infrastructure. I don't even think Matt was living up there. We might have had the trailers, but I think we might have had the camp trailers down below. But other than that, it was pretty rough. It was camping. And so no water hooked up, nothing at that point. And she was bringing us dinner and lunch and stuff like that. And she rolls up, and she literally has like the Fox 12 or whatever of the speech of Kate Brown shutting us down. So on the 15th or whenever that was.
Yeah, right here.
So
there's a paper.
Yeah.
I saved those.
Yeah.
I saved those. Governor issues stay-at-home order.
Yeah. And so when that happened, or when I think it was, they deemed us non-essential or whatever, right? Or,
that's such bullshit.
Right. Because, here we are, we're a furniture store and we sell mattresses. You tell somebody that just moves to town and doesn't have a mattress that mattresses are non-essential. They're like tires and brakes.
I just feel like they messed up just around every other corner.
Especially in the beginning when it was just an all-out freeze. It should have been, and then, this whole thing of like flatten the curve, when we never really even experienced it until like, 6 months, a year in, when it really got, when we started getting exposures, and it wasn't, this is my opinion, but they told it as like, oh yeah, it's because of all the restrictions that we did so good. And it's like, we're a pretty rural state.
Yeah.
We have a lot of land mass and little population, and most of us keep to ourselves. So, honestly,
it's tough. My grandfather, he was a good person to talk to, and he just pointed out to me, he's like, you know what? They don't know what they're doing. You got to have a little bit of patience. They just literally don't know what they're doing. Although, my view on it, and obviously I'm nobody, but is that they were making decisions that were, in my opinion, were knowing fully poor choices.
Well, it's absurd to just think you can hide from a virus.
It is.
Like, oh, I'm just going to hide, dude. We're going to lock it down and it'll go away. Like, oh, that's a great idea, right? No, it's not a great idea.
But, and it's just like everybody always says it. It's like, was it 2 weeks to flatten the curve? And of course, you can't just say things and then pretend you didn't say them or pretend they didn't matter.
Or not apologize for it.
Yeah.
Because I literally felt so alienated and so weird over the course of the last 2 years, at least in Oregon. I know it's different in a lot of other states. We have a lot of friends and, some of the supposed, right wing, states like Montana and Wyoming and, even in Arizona, which is pretty middle grounded from the most part, from my experience.
Yeah, I think
But Arizona was way more lax than a lot of Western states. We traveled there. We started going on vacation there just because it was lax. We were picking.
Yeah, in Arizona is rad.
We were picking locations
so
that didn't have mask mandates to go on vacation. So that's how we kind of were like, we would have stayed local and spent our money local these last 2 years, but we literally started picking locations and again, we wouldn't fly either because we're like, we're not going to stuff our kids in a fucking plane for 3 hours and put a mask on their face. We're just not going to do that. So instead, we kept, we stayed home a lot, or close to home on the farm. We used the farm. We were very fortunate to have that as our sanctuary.
It's such a great area to just be able to live and be happy and not have anybody there telling you what to do.
Yeah. So we get deemed non-essential. I got to pick up the phone call. It's like evening, right? I'm feeling all motion sick from being on a machine all day. And at this point, I'm not experienced like I am now. I mean, I spend half my days on machines now. So it's, it's like being on a boat. You get used to it, right? Back then it's like you're hollow headed and you feel like you're going to fall over. And so I'm literally feeling like this. I got to call. I got to make all the calls to my employees and be like, hey, guys, I don't know. I mean, they're saying 2 weeks. We don't know. I mean, excuse me. We don't know any of this. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how long. And, one thing I did say is I said, I will tell you what, I will make sure that nobody goes hungry and that your rent's paid. I said, I don't have a ton of money. Once these stores shut down, I mean, we got about 90 days of us paying our bills with no revenue coming in. And then Abe has $0, And so that was the conversation, and that the fear I had for not only ourselves, but I mean, it was like everything that we were so excited about, shutting the stores down, working on our real estate projects, to really literally looking at possibly, things like bankruptcy, things like, losing all of your staff, like going out of business, losing your buildings. I mean, we didn't know that there was going to be, PPP loans or help coming that was, feasible. And, and at first your pride, like I've always been like, I don't borrow money for business. I borrow money on real estate and it has to make sense. I don't borrow money on inventory. I don't borrow money on business. I don't borrow any weird money like that. I don't have credit cards I have credit cards, but I don't use them for, anything longer than a week, and I just do that to get my points. But so looking at this, we went home, I think I went home in disbelief, and I think we had that machine for another day or two. And it was so hard for Matt and I to be excited as we were the day before.
Oh, yeah.
About what we were doing, because we had no idea if it was all for nothing. Like, are we just pushing this dirt around for a piece of land we're going to lose? I mean, that we won't even be able to afford to build on or pay, or it's not cool anymore when you don't know what your future looks like. I felt so vulnerable, the most vulnerable I ever have in my whole life. I honestly, everything I've ever worked for my whole life was literally in question because of those two words, non-essential. You're non-essential. Your business is no longer essential. There's this pandemic that, we thought was going to kill,
everybody,
thousands of people locally, and our friends and neighbors and everybody we know. And I'm not discounting the few that passed, and so on and so forth. I would never ever diminish a human life or discount anybody ever. But really, what I was sold in the beginning and what I was led to believe and what it actually was were obviously clearly two things. I'm not blind. I'm not stupid. Nobody in my immediate circle passed. My mom, who was on her deathbed for a year off and on, got it and ended up living for, making it through it, and then ended up getting released. They called me like, they go, my brother called me, oh man, your mom's got COVID, like this is it. And, we were just waiting. We knew. We were like, wow, if she gets it, she's gone.
Yeah.
And she had like 10% lung and heart function and everything else. She gets COVID.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Seriously.
She gets it, and then she makes it out. And then makes it another 6 or 8 or 10 weeks or whatever, and then ends up passing of, a heart failure or whatever that she was going to die with anyway.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but I mean, and then, my cousin who's got major heart issues. I mean, you've met Jeff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And
he got it.
Yeah. Oh, he's had it at least twice.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And the same thing. I mean, it was kind of funny actually, because I was traveling. I think it was last spring, and he was going to house sit for me. And he tells me like the day before he's got a house sit, and he's like, bro, I just tested positive. And I'm like, I'm kind of insensitive, as those that know me around me, like especially for my close, I'm like, can you still house sit? Like, I'm like, dude, nobody's there. It's a perfect place to quarantine.
Yeah, it's a good
you got
point.
plenty of food. You can walk the dogs. Don't, it's totally private, right?
Totally. Yeah, you could die there privately.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, but kind of secretly thinking like, oh, wow, this might be his time, right? And so, no. So Jeff gets COVID and makes it, and he's happy. And
Did he house it still?
Oh, yeah, dude. He was like, he goes, dude, I've had colds that were worse, right? And so... And then when I got it, it was the same way. I was funny because I'm the only one that's fully vaccinated in our house. And I get it the worst, and I'm thinking like, I'm going to be responsible, for the whole coaching thing and school thing. I'm going to get vaccinated. I'm going to do the right thing, and I've done a lot of stupid stuff in my life. And then I get it, and all the kids and Mariah and everything are like sniffles for 3 days. And I'm like holed up for 10 days, all like half dead. I'm going, hey, there's something wrong with this equation. I felt a little tricked.
Yeah.
So, but those are our personal experiences. I'm sure the vaccine has saved people or whatever.
The vaccine saved everybody.
It might have, you never know. Hey, whatever your guys, and I'm not one, but I'm also the same way. Like I don't care. I'm not, the people that were concerning to me were like the regular folks that were like preaching it like it was gospel.
Yeah,
that scared me. I'm like, whoa, dude,
thing.
Where's your biological degree? What's your experience on
this? No, but
this?
Dr. Fauci, he was on television.
Right, yeah. So, like, that is genuinely concerning to me in any topic or anything. Like, don't ever sell something that you don't know for certain. And even if you do, like, if I know something for certain because I've done it and saw the result 10 out of 10 times, I'm still going to let you discover it. Because that's not for me to tell you, So it's not. I mean, unless it's like, don't get run over by that train. Obviously, I mean, you have some moral obligation to somebody, but this isn't the time. That's not the case, because what if, okay, I'm going to throw the scenario out here that if in 7 years there is a certain genetic mutation that occurs as a result, as a chemical reaction from something that somebody took. I'm not going to say, that it's a specific thing. We're not going to talk about that.
Yeah.
What we're going to say is it could be anything. It could be
anything.
A Tylenol or whatever, right? But you preached it to me and made me feel guilty because I didn't take Tylenol for my headache. And then 7 years later, that now I have a genetic mutation that doesn't allow me to have children, or that I get blood clots, or that whatever happens.
Arguments.
And so that's the thing is, why would you ever, like, once, this is not 100% the same, but it could go in the same category as, you never recommend a restaurant or a body shop to somebody, right? It's the same kind of thing. Do not say, you can have one experience for yourself. It doesn't mean it's going to be the same for this person or this person or this person. And everybody has their own opinions and beliefs and everything else. You can't sell a one-size-fits-all remedy. And obviously now, as we're seeing statistics and as the things come out, that's not the case. It's not the case. I mean, that wasn't the miracle. It didn't save us all.
No, a lot of that information was suppressed, and they used statistics that were based on pseudoscience.
Right.
It was just like, it really pissed me off. In the lab leak theory, the most obvious thing from the start. Remember the lab leak?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and it's just like, okay.
Well,
how is that not?
That was also politicized too, though, and that I have a problem with the whole thing with being politicized. And,
yes,
and
totally
I really do. It's. I'm so over it. I'm actually glad we are where we are. I'm still a little nervous. Like, I'm standing on the edge of the cliff.
Yeah, we're just going to go back.
I'm just waiting for this new subvariant to come in and no, you've been bad. You didn't do this.
Yeah,
and
put your mask back on.
Put your mask back on and do as I say. And it's like, I mean, really, at some point, that made me. What it did is it really made me want to pull back from the public even more. It made me, a lot of people I genuinely respected. I just kind of. I won't say that I lost all respect, but it really made me question a lot of intelligent people, that I really had more admiration for before, that were really just armchair activist, Facebook activist, whatever you want to be. I mean, it's trendy to have an opinion about everything now, right? I mean, that's just it's frustrating as just for human race to see the people that were arguing over politics and vaccines and all of that stuff.
Super weird.
It divided entire families.
Oh.
I mean, brothers and sisters, and and we're I mean, like even our nobody was. I don't think anybody was immune to that. Everybody these last 2 years, there's been on the hindsight, like what I also have noticed though too is I would say over the last 6 months, at least in my personal circles, almost all of that is gone and things are better than ever. So maybe things had to get like really weird, like when you fight your best friend in 12th grade, or like when you're 12.
Yeah.
And then you guys love each other even more when you bloody each other's noses or whatever. I mean, maybe
you hug it out. And
right.
Like,
that was a dude thing. Like,
you're bringing the baby.
This is a weird pent up aggression for a long time, right? And nobody really ever felt courageous enough to do it until they were passionate about something, even if it was weird passion, right? Or misguided, we'll say, misguided energy. And then this passion comes out. People get all crazy. They say hurtful things. And then eventually, hopefully they repair. I know for me, I had some personal relationships that were strained over the last couple of years. And I also have some stubbornness, and none of it really had to do with the pandemic or politics. It was just varying things. But, it was in the air, right? The tension's in the air. So it's just like, well, whatever. And I'm one of the most stubborn people there are. Like, I can just disown you. Like, I don't care who you are. And I'll drop you and I'll be like, I don't need you, dude. Yeah, I don't. I really honestly don't. I'm fine on my own and I can do this. And then at some point recently, in the last couple of years, I've become, I don't know, I'm just more soft. I just have this like feeling of like, really at the end of the day, all we have is our memories and our relationships with people, really. And then it doesn't matter what you own. It's what you accomplish. Some of the stuff you've done, right? So some of the stuff you've built, your accomplishments, and I'm saying that not in the term of monetary, but in the stuff like, what you've done, the memories you leave on people, right? Because our time is short here. It's really short. And,
totally.
And if you don't leave an impression on somebody, and if you're an ignorant, stubborn bastard, and over something that could be relatively petty in the grand scheme of things, even if somebody is also an asshole, but you're too stubborn to have forgiveness in your heart and give them the open door of being like, I mean, if somebody's bottom line screwing you and taking advantage of you and being dishonest and hurtful and those kind of things, obviously that's healthy to step aside. But when there's simple misunderstandings or simple differences of opinions and you genuinely love somebody or care for them, to no matter what, no matter who's wrong or right, there is no wrong or right. It's to forgive and move past that. And so I think the last 2 years have shown me that more than ever. I've really just opened up and said, I'm not so passionate about any of my personal beliefs that I would totally discount another person anymore. Like I totally embrace it,
Oh yeah, that's a good way to be. I mean, it was weird because that's kind of how I was before the pandemic. And then during the pandemic, all of a sudden it was like, if I had to wear a mask in your house, there wasn't any reason for me to visit you.
I was the same way. Yeah, same way. I wouldn't go. We have that. I don't know how many times we've had that talk. Like, yeah, no, we're not doing that.
And it's just like, well, we're realistically, you're in the same house, breathing the same air.
Right.
It's like, we're not really protecting each other from anything. I mean, it's just all to make each other feel a certain way. I
love it when I go to meetings and I have clients and it would be like, who's cool first, like kind of flirting with each other. Like, you want to wear these or?
Oh yeah.
And then they'd be like, no, I hate. Oh, cool. You're cool. Okay, I'm cool. All right.
All right.
Yeah. It's like real weird, like you go into a business meeting or something and you don't really know the person yet, and yeah. And we get them all the time where we go on deliveries in the beginning and all throughout, and we're required by OSHA and whatever. And then, we had to be, when OSHA started slapping fines on people, we had to be sticklers to our employees of like, hey, even if the people say you're cool, that could be a trick. You have to keep them on at people's houses. And we get people that were flat out on that side of the coin that were like, take those masks off. We had a couple people that were flat out like, you can't come in here with a mask on.
Really?
Oh yeah. So we've had it both ways, and so And then I had one person send me a nasty email that one of my employees, a sales lady, who she didn't even deal with, but noticed from across the room, had her mask below her nose.
Yeah.
Remember those people? They're in the heart of it, where they would like the total Karens, they would send emails and, call OSHA and be like, I noticed their mask wasn't on properly and they were doing this and doing that. And I mean, where did we get to in this world that's that is so not cool.
That's
so
totally not cool.
So judgmental.
It's totally not cool.
Like, why? I mean, really, you're not jeopardizing you're looking for 25 feet away, and for God's sake, I mean, don't frequent a place. If you're scared, or whatever, just don't go.
Well, the people in charge who made those rules should have thought of that. It's like,
right.
Who's going to be the mask police? It's the people at the very bottom,
right.
The poorest people, the people with the least, and they're the ones that have to do the shitty job.
Well, and the employees that have to enforce it too. They're like, and also too, if you're that scared and somebody's got their mask under their nose, and you could say, hey, I'm not comfortable. Would you mind pulling? You could do it politely, right?
And keyword politely, right?
I mean, anything you do politely, and if somebody's offended if you ask them politely, then that's their problem.
Yeah.
But I mean, nobody ever that asked me politely to wear a mask did I give shit to. I didn't give shit to anybody. I mean, I wanted to, but I didn't. Because at the end of the day, if I'm going to go into a public place, or again, if it's an employee, the employee doesn't want to ask you. They don't want to ask you to wear your fucking mask. I mean, who wants to do that? They're probably getting $15-20 an hour. They have shit to do. They have kids. They have mortgages. They have whatever. They have bills to pay. They don't want to enforce a mask mandate, and they have to wear a mask all day themselves, an uncomfortable mask on their face while they're out there trying to earn a living. While they're short staffed and everything else. I mean,
very, very stressful time for everybody. And and I'm not against masks. I wore masks before they were mandated because I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna do my part. I'm gonna wear a mask and I'm gonna be helpful.
Yeah.
And then as soon as they mandated it, it was like total opposite. I was like,
well, don't tell me what to do.
Don't tell me what to do.
Recommend it.
Yeah, recommend
but don't
it.
tell me what. And also, too, I don't mind, like, how about if you're in line at a grocery store, those choke points, right? If you're within, you're right in there. You can't. Those are, in my opinion, those are the worst. You're in line at a grocery store. Even when they did the little 6 feet line, how many times did anybody ever abide by that?
I hated those little stickers and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm gonna stand as close to the other person as I can get away with because this is
Right.
dumb. Like
Right.
the lines would stretch like 3 times further. Now the whole store was
Right.
full of lines. It was preposterous.
It's ridiculous.
It's just like
Yeah. And so, but then, you're in there and I'm like, everybody's, you feel their hot breath through their mask on your shoulder. And I'm going
it's like their breath is still coming out of there, and that means their COVID's still coming out of there.
Exactly.
If they have COVID.
Yeah.
Even.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I don't know. But
Lots of COVID.
Well, we solved that issue and now it's over.
It's gone. Well, no, I
gone
was
forever.
I was actually kind of worried, like you were saying, like I'm not anti-mask or anti-vaccine. I'm vaccinated.
No, yeah, me too.
And so it's like,
Yeah.
that's fine. I'm just I'm all about choice.
But it's choice.
All
I
about
also
the choice.
want the choice.
Yeah.
I felt a little pressured through my volunteer stuff, at school. And it was one of those, there was some exemptions, but I felt dishonest. Like
religious.
Yeah, there's some other ones
The
too.
Lord
but,
shall not get vaccinated.
and I just felt I'm like, well, I'm a healthy guy. Again, I've done some stupid shit. Like, I'll just, I'll take it, right? And I will tell you, when I got the second one and I got super sick from it, I felt a little cheated.
Oh, I don't think it doesn't make any sense to make yourself sick to keep yourself from getting sick.
Right.
No,
And then when I got, and I was like, it's funny because then I got COVID, right? I got the Omicron and somebody was like, well, that's because you're not boosted. And I'm going like, bro, my second vaccine was like October 30th, right? And I think I got Omicron like January 2nd or 3rd. I'm like, I was so freshly vaccinated, like right in the good zone, right? The first 90 days of that shit.
Oh yeah.
And so, and then again, to get it the worst in the house, I felt cheated then too. I mean, and again, these are just my experiences.
Well, those vaccines are old.
Everybody, yeah.
They're old vaccines. Omicron was like 5 or 6 like generations down. Like, and they're like, "Oh, took the vaccine." And it's like, no. And then later on, they were like, "Oh, well."
And I just really hope
really
it
work.
becomes like a flu shot, and it's just like, hey, 40% of the people are going to get it. 60% aren't. It is what it is.
Well,
the immunities are going to build up. They're obviously, Omicron gave us a ton of natural immunities because everybody I know got it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I got
I've heard of whole
vaccinated or
families.
not. I mean, we got our whole village got it.
Yeah.
I mean, almost everybody we knew at the time got it. It just washed through the whole community. I mean, it was fun. It was so crazy that I think even the health department was like, oh, just self-report. Like we're not going to trace it anymore. You can self-report and quarantine and whatever. But it was so mild. I mean, it wasn't even. I've been way sicker with way more stuff, and I know that's not the point because it's the one time that that it can take you out, right? And again, I mean, horrible situation for a lot of families that had healthy people that didn't realize it, and then bam, that's bad. So I get it, and that's a horrible. I would never make light of that. So. I would never, and how do you protect that? I don't know. I mean, we have other laws that are a lot lighter that kill a lot more people. So I'm not sure
a lot of those were arguments against all the mandates, like we didn't do the cost benefit analysis.
Right.
I was just reading an article it was either this morning or last night about how, students in high school, how sad, how much more depressed they were during the pandemic. And it's just like,
talk about test scores that have just plummeted. I mean, so yeah.
What is that worth? That's our future.
Teen suicide.
Yeah.
Drug addiction, overdoses. I mean, overdoses were, hellacious. And with this, the opioid epidemic. I mean, Jesus.
Oh no, the fentanyl. Now it's all about the fentanyl. And, that stuff's like so potent.
Right. Yeah, and they're mixing it into everything. And how do you know?
You don't. It's such a tiny amount that can just waste you.
Well, and it's played hell on this community alone, and just recently there's been a few, and so
yeah,
and that's horrible. That's devastating.
And it really is killing people. It's really here.
Yeah.
And it's not like, wear a mask and you keep from getting fentanyl. It's
no. Instead, you just now you can do it. You just have to pay $100 fine if you get caught. So it's fine. Not only do we not restrict it, we're going to promote it. So yeah.
But it seems like for the pandemic, the president has basically said we should move on. Biden said that, and so I feel like that's a pretty good indicator that we're not going back. It would be if he was to backstep, that would be pretty hardcore.
I've talked to some friends of mine that are higher level local and state officials that have really, without saying it, almost. I was talking to Mariah about it earlier. I'm like, the certainty they are saying it with is actually almost as alarming as the restrictions themselves. Like,
what do you mean?
Of like, oh no, it's done. It's not coming. Yeah. It's not coming back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, why are you so certain about that? What do you know that I don't know? And what did we not know the last 18 months?
It's the same certainty they had that it was here.
Right.
It's
and
like
so,
this
so they're like, oh, no. Nope. And then the airline masks are coming off next month and, so on and so on.
I'm all for that. Please take the airline mask off.
I got to fly next week.
If anybody gives a shit and is listening to this, because we got 61 followers on Talkness Monsters podcast, and I shared it on my take the mask off the planes, because I just I've flown more during the pandemic, which doesn't make any sense to me. It's because my girlfriend loves to travel, which is great.
Right.
But it's like I've flown more during the pandemic than I have in the last 6-7 years.
You know how many
combined.
times I've flown during the pandemic?
How many times?
0.
What the heck? So, you're probably the opposite of me. You probably fly more.
I used to
normally.
Fly. Well, when I was in business, it seemed like we were between business and vacation. We were flying somewhere every 6-8 weeks, and so Mariah's been on some trips, but I've been so into this whole once we got out of the stores, even when we came back, and then once we ultimately decided to sell to Ryan, I'm just on this home kick. I'm building this farm and doing this homestead deal, and why would I travel anywhere? I live in fucking paradise. I mean, it's like, it's the best thing ever. So I have no reason to go. I do like warm spots in the winter, but then at the same time, every time I take 10 days off and I go to Arizona, I spend 4, 5, 6, 10 grand, and I lose 10 days of work and production. And as you know, like the farm, dude, it's a constant. I mean, that thing's going to take me another 10 years to get it done. I mean, it's going to be forever. And then is it ever going to be done? Because then we're going to circle back to those old projects we didn't do and we weren't satisfied with. We're going to be like, oh man, we got to fix that. We got to build better fences. We got to work on, more stuff, build a bigger barn or whatever that may be. So I just kind of lost the will to travel because I live in paradise, man, and so it's great.
Yeah, that's it's so cool. And I was flying around today with the drone, and I was kind of comparing some of the older shots I had.
Yeah.
They weren't really matched up like I wanted them to be, but it's such a cool spot. Like when I'm flying up there and I can just see out, and all you can see is mountains and forest.
I know.
It's like, it's something like you talk about growing up, on dirt roads or gravel roads. And a lot of the time that was me too. And I think that's why we kind of connect a little bit. And I was just telling Dayton here, it's like, man, like I grew up part of the time, my grandparents, my uncles in a barn, just exactly the same thing. Like yours is a shop, but it's kind of the same thing.
You lived in the barn?
Well, we go and stay in there like grandparents, and
really?
Out in Bandon
in the
Dunes
barn,
Golf Course.
in the barn itself.
No, same thing.
Oh.
There's a house in it.
Oh,
There's a house in it.
Oh, really?
It's exactly
That's
the same
before
thing.
it was trendy then.
Yes, and it's like, my uncles, they're a bunch of rednecks. They're working on their cars. They go be fishing. They got.
Are you insinuating that I'm a redneck?
You are one hell of a redneck. Actually, on this list,
I actually consider myself as more of a hybrid. Honestly.
Yeah, like a what? Like a what? A hybrid of what?
I'm a cross between maybe a redneck and a city business guy.
Oh, and you're gonna say like a hippie.
I had that. I'm over it. So
you're over. You cleansed yourself at the hippie.
I took a shower.
Washed your patchouli
off.
off.
And bought deodorant. So no. I got a lot of hippie friends, but no, I'm not. I'm too industrious, I think, to be a good hippie. Honestly, I would love to be there someday, but I'm not at that point in my life. I need to get over my desire to build and create, I think. And then, but I'm working on it. I'm trying to be more self-sustaining. I'm trying to be more green. I'm trying to be more environmentally friendly.
You are so green. It's preposterous.
But I'm not.
That's like the green. That's like the hippiest part of you, how green you are.
No, I'm off grid and we're solar and all that fun stuff. But
and you're going to start growing all your food. And you got cows.
Yeah.
Pretty soon to be bathing with your cows.
Maybe.
Cow bathing.
So, yeah. I do want to build a, what do they call the wood fire redneck hot tub? So that's on the list. We'll have to do
the horse drinking
Yeah, I want to do a
thing?
horse trough. Yeah, that's why I'm thinking about cow. Yeah, so put that. People have seen those, the metal horse trough.
Oh, yeah.
And then, either you put like a, it's still submerged, but it has like a plate. And you can buy a special wood stove that goes in the water and you top feed it.
Really?
Yeah, and then it heats the water that way. Or you can have a separate stove or even a fire pit and then have like a copper, coil. And then just it plumbed in on one side, plumbed into the other, and then the heat and the convection automatically runs the heat through the water. So, so that's on my list. I want to build that. That's also why guys like me will never be truly wealthy, because I have probably $500,000 worth of projects that will make me $0, but I just want to build them to build and do to do. That's the point of my life. I literally sold my businesses, selling all of my real estate to build this off-grid farm. And then that's all of my investment money and all of my retirement money that I'm building this farm with. And then at the end of the day, guess what? I'll have a really cool farm and no money. So then what, right?
Well, okay. I wanted to ask you about the current state of things, which I think would tie into this, because you're like, okay, well, at the end of the day, I'm not going to have any money. But I think at the end of the day, if shit hits the fan, like it looks like it's hitting, you're going to be out there off grid, and you're going to be like, you got cows and you're going to be growing food, and you're going to be kind of all right.
When the pandemic started, it really stemmed this for me. I thought, okay, what if this was a real event? The government shut us off and didn't allow us to reopen and didn't send relief money, right? So that would have been a very different scenario than what happened. And then if that was the case and we were up there, we have eggs from our chickens, we have pigs that reproduce fast, that can live off of very little substance. We would probably we're not completely self-reliant on feed for our cows or our pigs, but that's what we're working on now. So that's the project. So yeah, what you're saying is that's all real shit to me. Like I'm actually building for that. And not to be some weird psycho prepper like you see on TV, these nutcase guys. I'm trying to do it in a realistic fashion that a real person can understand, And so like literally, okay, you have cows, chickens, pigs, right? How can you produce? But we only have, as you know, we're literally on the side of a mountain. Like there is, what do you think? Usable flat space, 2 acres, an acre. I mean, it's small. Between all the
you got bulldozer. You can make as many flat as you want.
Well,
you push the whole mountain.
That's
over.
what we're working on. So, like, and I haven't shared this before, so you haven't even heard me talk about this. But today, so what I'm in the middle of moving. I'm trying to create another 2 to 3 flat acres, so we have maybe 5 acres of flat agricultural area. So we can do food growth, via garden, vegetables, berries, but also. What I'm looking into, and I don't even know yet, it just came to me today, is I want to come up with all the odd spaces that are even sloped in between the flat spaces, and I want to cultivate fast-growing food that I can feed to my livestock. And so something that grows and reproduces fast that we can feed to the livestock, so if that case ever comes up, we don't have to go buy food. So that's the thing with, when we're feeding livestock, we're feeding our cows 100 pounds of hay a day. I mean, that adds up, especially this time of year. And the area they're in, the 2 or 3 acres they're in, it's up and down hills. It's down in the shade. If they're out of there, it grows like crazy. If they're not, they eat it out pretty fast. Like right now it's springtime and stuff's shooting up an inch a day. And if I don't keep that 100 pounds of grass hay coming, they wander and tear that sucker up, So what we're trying to do is add another 2 or 3 acres up top so we can switch them. So we can run them half a year one, half a year the other. So maybe we can cut our supplement down to, say, 2 tons instead of 4 or 5 tons of hay, grass hay. Or eventually, if everything's shut off tomorrow and we couldn't get grass hay, then can we grow enough weird stuff in between the areas? Or also, I'm not opposed to, if the shit totally hit the fan, I think about this stuff. I'm one of those weirdos, right? Not a weirdo in the prep way, but I think about like, I'll just free range my cows up on the timberland behind me that I don't own, because really, who's going to get them, right? And if they get them, then they get them. So I'm not opposed to that either. But I'm trying, that's like if tomorrow, the lights shut off tomorrow, society collapsed, and we don't have anything, right? We run out of diesel, we run out of whatever. How long can I make it? Well, realistically, I do run off of propane for my personal heat inside my apartment. I do have a wood stove for that area that I could put in there. So I could switch it to wood stove. So I don't have propane. I don't have to use it for there. We do use it for our hot water, which is a luxury. We love that, obviously. We keep about 400 and some gallons of propane on stock. So if we were just using it for hot water, I think we consume about 20 gallons a month for hot water. So you add that up, that's what, 400 gallons is 20 months, right? So
yeah, well, you could be like, okay,
we could conserve,
we're all going to do like one shower a week.
And it's going to be like, or you could even do one every day, but it's going to be like you get 2 minutes. You just
just shorten it.
Right, just get in, get out, right?
Yeah.
And so I want it like the luxury shit, And when it comes to like prepping and hoarding and like, all of that, we have started. But you know what it is it's not like, I'm not really too worried about protein. Again, we have animals. We know how to hunt. We know how to fish. We can get protein. What we have on site, well, we can go get. We have that. Edibles, the greens, we have to get better. We're working on the infrastructure for bigger gardens and bigger seed storages. So that's in the works right now as we speak. We have stuff on order. We do have some seed storage, not nearly enough. So that's in the works. More areas to plant and figure out what grows quickly for supplemental pig and cow food that we can cut, harvest, feed to them, and supplement them. And so
maybe like corn. Pigs probably, you should grow a bunch of corn. They probably just eat the hell out.
Yeah, I think all the animals.
Oh, that's what cows eat.
Yeah, they would like.
Cows eat the whole. They like grind it all up.
Yeah,
and the cows eat the whole thing,
and it fattens them up too. A lot of people like grain feed. Ours are grass fed, and I'll tell you, we butchered a grass fed steer Oh, last fall, and I'll tell you, we should have grain fed him out because
Really?
yeah, it wasn't good. They're a lean cow anyway, the Highlands.
Yeah.
And we should have fattened him up because he was not. It tasted very gamey, very tough, and
Yeah.
I made some jerky out of him, and but none of the steaks were good. The hamburger's fine because hamburgers
Not even on the Traeger?
we do almost everything on the Traeger. It was okay, but it's just tough.
Yeah.
It's real tough meat. Even the jerky,
It's all stew meat now,
yeah,
huh?
exactly. I had to pound the hell out of it. I boiled a bunch of the rib meat, and that was okay.
Yeah.
Some of the roast was okay, but it just wasn't my favorite. But it is. But going back, I want to be prepared just in case, right? And then I want the luxury items. Like every time Mariah goes to Costco, I have her buy me 2 to 3 containers of coffee because I cannot go without coffee. That is my thing. And our solar is enough to run refrigerators, our basic stuff, washer and dryer.
And that's pretty much indefinitely, yeah.
It's indefinitely. I mean, we could run, now that we've added our second string of panels, I think we've supplemented with a generator once or twice in the last 30 days. And it was because we were being wasteful. We had a big event at the house and there was all the big lights on and there was stuff going on. And that's the kind of stuff you're obviously not going to do if you're in a conserving survival situation. You're going to monitor your battery levels. You're going to only consume what you need, which is bare minimum.
If they go like all the way dead, is that bad?
Yes.
So you never want to let them go all the way dead.
And they won't because there's safe fails.
They're going to shut off.
Yep, they shut off.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
yep, your inverter will shut off before the batteries go dead.
Oh, good.
So, yeah. So the inverter will have a self shut off,
Yeah.
and we can
Like
set
20% or something.
Exactly. I think I have it set at 22%.
Yeah.
Yeah, or 23%.
Yeah.
And so you don't ever want to suck them all the way dead. Although lithium phosphate batteries, lithium iron phosphates they can cycle down to 0 and up and 0 and up. And I think these things can cycle something like 3,000 times or something crazy. So, I mean, if you add that up, if you're 365 days a year, I mean, that's more than 10 years. And even then they say 3,000 to 4,000 cycles and they're still good. They're still like 90% even at that point for another 10 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So these batteries are, 15 to 20 year battery banks.
Excellent.
So it's a lot different technology than it was with these lead acid, water-filled crappy batteries that let off chemical stuff. It's a different game. Although they are digitally controlled, and if you have circuit issues, which we've experienced, that was not our fault. But so
I wish I was there for that, man.
Dude.
I wish I was there for that.
So some of it was my fault, some of it's not. But so those are failures that obviously, if those occurred, then you're SOL. I mean, you're stuck, and especially if everything's shut down tomorrow. So the main thing is, just try to figure it out and survive, and do that. And I mean, I don't think anybody would be comfortable if everything shut off tomorrow and fuel shut off, and it was a total apocalyptic situation, where everything shut off, and we were just like, because eventually you're going to run out of things like fuel for your chainsaws, and but maybe I should start buying like electric chainsaws or something, for a backup like that you could charge with solar.
Actually, that's a good idea.
You
And part of the thing with the fuel is like if you can't even store it for that long. Like
Right.
I was just thinking about that with gas prices as much as they were.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, I should like get a bunch of gas cans and store it.
If it's non-ethanol, you can store that for much longer. The shelf life is a lot longer.
Yeah, but it's at like 6 months to
But-
a year
but
or
no, a lot longer. With non-ethanol, you should be able to get maybe up to 5
Oh,
years
and is
of
that-
usable. But ethanol it separates after about some of it's like 2, 3, 4 weeks. I mean, some of the small engines. We don't run ethanol fuel in any of our, like most of our higher end chainsaws and stuff. They don't even like it anyway. You can run, an ethanol fuel in like one tank, and if you let it sit for 2 or 3 days, your saw won't even start. And a lot of times it'll screw up the carburetors and the other stuff. It's just garbage. Ethanol, that's another. Don't get me started on that shit. That was a scam in the 90s to help put money into domestic farmers' pockets. That it takes 5 gallons of fossil fuel to make 1 gallon of ethanol, and tell me that makes sense to put it in our fuel as an efficient additive, right?
doesn't sound like it.
No, it's not. I mean, I'm all for efficiency and green energy. I mean, the bottom line is with the trend of, green energy and efficiency is, People need to fucking stop buying so much and stop traveling so much. I mean, honestly, that's the bulk of it. Stop driving your cars.
Yeah, they are. Like, all these
let's
people,
get rid of plastic containers. I mean,
people from Bend, they keep coming over here with your big Sprinter vans. Stay in Bend and ride your river wave. Ride your river wave in Bend.
You can't hate all of those guys, but what I am saying though.
You guys are okay. I'm just kidding.
And dude, this is weird for me because, as most of the people know, I'm a fiscal conservative, but I'm really one of those guys that, like, I think people kind of misconstrue the term conservative, because conservative also means I'm also conservative on consumption and especially bad shit. Like fossil fuels and anything petroleum based. It's like, quit making plastic disposable garbage. Stop it. And like
dude,
stop packaging my fucking food in plastic.
Yeah.
Stop it.
I wish that they would be reusable containers.
I want cardboard and glass.
Paper.
And reusable. And I want the glass to be reusable. I want to take this bottle back. And I want it to go back to a manufacturing plant where you can actually not just break it and make it again, because that takes a lot of fossil fuel
sanitize
as well.
it and then put stuff back in it.
And then let's make them uniform. Let's make the same 5 bottles. Make the same 5 bottles across the board. Let's make it uniform across the way. Instead of everybody getting their trendy bottles and their prints and their logos and their this, their that. Let's go back to plastics, glass, wood, and paper.
Metal.
And even paper takes a lot of fossil fuels to get. We got to cut the trees. We got to process them. We got to grind them.
I just like that it's biodegradable. That's my main thing.
It is biodegradable, but at the end of the day, if you're looking at fossil fuels and the stuff that
how
it
much
takes
fuel
to
does it
get there,
cost
it's a ton, dude.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a ton, man.
But they can make this stuff out of like rice now.
Yeah.
They can make papers out of rice. It's like, we'll package your crackers in rice instead.
Well, I don't know. And I don't know a whole bunch about it. And I'm a little ignorant, but I will speak on it a little bit. But I don't know how much you know about it. But the local disposal place in Toledo and GP have teamed up on a thing called the Juno Project.
I've never heard of that.
And it's real state of the art. I believe it's either the first or the second one in the country. And they're taking regular domestic garbage, unsorted, mind you.
Okay.
And they're actually taking it. It's coming in from all over this region. And it goes up right to the hill up there in Toledo. Seriously. And they're putting it into this really fancy machine. And I think they're saying something like, I don't think it's 80%, but 2/3 of what comes out of the back end is recyclable material that they can use for remanufacturing products. So they're literally throwing in everything, organics, plastic, you name it. And it's 2/3 of what comes out of the back end of this machine is that's, and again, I'm a little ignorant. I'm repeating what I've been told. I don't have the facts on that. There might be people out there that have that. But so that, I believe, is actually the wave of the future. Let's create less new plastics and fossil fuel based stuff, petroleum based products. Let's take all this junk we've been building, disposable garbage, right? Everything's disposable. You remember when you were a kid and you walked into your grandma's house and they probably had the same couch since they got married for 40 years.
Oh, yeah.
And then, they died and whatever else. And then, I'm not saying your grandparents died, but this is the scenario, right? So, so they pass away, and then where does that go? Generally to the dump, right? Yeah. It goes to the dump. And that was, I guarantee you, the frame was made out of this super thick oak or maple from down south. Doesn't even exist anymore. Can't even buy it, right? That couch would cost $10,000 to manufacture today.
Well, that's because he's like, I don't want that old couch.
You don't want that old funky, stinky couch.
I don't want that old funky, stinky couch.
It's got floral print on it, right? Yeah. So instead, you go down and you buy a new sofa. It doesn't matter where it's made today. Guess what's in it?
Eager Beaver.
Only the finest.
I love your boy Ryan, by the way, man.
Oh, Ryan.
That guy's freaking awesome.
Dude, Ryan's the best,
I worked with him on a video once, and he was just like, dude, this guy is going to run this. This is the perfect guy.
Right. And then, and so then Ryan eventually buys this. During the pandemic, I say, fuck it, I want to quit, and I sell the whole thing to Ryan. So, and that just went through in January. And so now I'm fully out of the business, and I just collect a lease and a small payment. And dude's a rock star, man. And you know what? I learned that a long time ago that, like, I have my fans and I've done well locally and stuff, but everybody loves Ryan, and it's kind of one of those things I should have done it a long time ago. It's like, dude, he's a freaking rock star, and love the kid. He's listened to me. What I love is that like he frustrated me a little bit during the transition. And then like I secretly, like I couldn't tell him or Mariah, but like I was proud of him, you know, cause like he did some like business moves that were like, yeah, nice, dude. You know?
like kind of taking the bull by the horns. He
Yeah,
had to do what he had to do. And
yeah, he did some deals that like, again, like on my end, it was like it frustrated me a little bit because it was towards the end and it added some more financial strain for me, but it was smart for him to the way he worked it, you know? And then I was like, I would have done the same thing, you know? And so
Dude moved here from Missouri.
yeah, Missouri.
Boom.
And so, you know, it was like when the grasshopper becomes the master, you know, little kung fu,
The
quote.
grasshopper.
So, yeah, the grasshopper becomes the master. And so, and to watch him, I mean, he's only, 3 months in, right? And the place is just, he's doing so much better than he thought, than I thought. It's only, you're only 90 days in, so it's new or whatever, but the kid is just fucking rocking it. And everybody loves him. The community loves him. I mean, he gets, his reviews are rave. I mean, like everybody, you know, and so, and he totally had our blessing. And I hope that we set up a good reputation in the beginning. And, you know, I kind of had that talk with him before I transferred. I said, hey, dude, this is like a family legacy for me. Like, this was going to be my thing until I died, you know, and then I just decided to quit one day and like, here you go, you know, like this is big. It's yours now, you know. And so,
aren't you glad you decided not to die at the furniture place?
Oh, dude. Yeah. There's kind of a saying, like it was an old timer that was in furniture that he got out of it a couple years before I did. And he was kind of responsible for helping me get in. And I think he always said, Abe, you don't sell out or you don't retire out of furniture. You either die or go out of business.
Dying out of business.
Yeah. Cause you know what? Because bottom line is your competitor doesn't want your shit. They always think they can do whatever they can do better, right? They might want to buy your building. Like that might be a thing. That happens at towns across the United States. A competitor would be like, well, we want to buy your building. And then they wipe you out and they sell all your shit. And then they reset it with their format because they have different vendors and different things. Nobody wants to buy any absorbing. And that's why I gave him a really good deal too. I gave him like if he was one of my kids, right? You know, and I sold it to him for probably not even 10%, honestly, of what it was worth. But people did that, the lampshade deal, for instance. People did that for me. You know, people gave me those opportunities when I was his age. I was exactly his age when I started. And I had those once-in-a-lifetime deals that, I was naive. I thought that was just the way, right? But, you know, so people helped me. And I remember that. And there's not a lot of opportunity for young, ambitious people right now in this economy. It's a really hot economy.
It's a weird time.
It's a weird time.
I wanted to ask you about that too, because just earlier when I was over, you mentioned that the housing market was starting to crash, and as somebody who
well, let's rewind a second.
Well,
I won't say crash, you know.
Well, yeah, but it's something's happening.
The writing's on the wall. What's happening is the Fed is adjusting the interest rate. And so what happens is anybody that knows money and knows real estate, that if I go downtown to any bank or any online bank or any mortgage broker and I borrow $500,000 at 3.25%, my payment is going to be, I'm going to make up a number, but let's say, $2,800, right? So, or $3,200. And now if I go, and now I think it's going up to like 5.5 or 5.25. Don't quote me on this, but so, and it just probably depends from bank to bank to bank or whatever, but they're eking it up. It's coming up. And there is no, you have to, there's certain deals. So say that same $500,000 house now, on a 30-year note is 5.5%.
Yeah.
2.25% more. Your monthly payment's going to go up to $4,200 a month. And you're paying a whole lot more interest over the 30-year note than you were at 3.25. And also what that does is for qualifying people, we have a very important equation in home loans. It's called debt to income ratio. And so it means it's your monthly debt to income. How much debt do you have? You have a car loan. You have 2 car loans. You have, some student loan debt. You have XYZ. Say your payments on your loans are $3,600 a month, and your living expenses are another $3,000 a month. So you're $6,200 a month, but you're only bringing in, I don't know, $8,500. Well, you can't afford your mortgage should only be less than 20% of your disposable income, right? And so now that formula doesn't work. The debt to income ratio doesn't work, and especially when it's higher. So when it's higher, it's a squeeze for people to be affording these $500,000 houses at 3.25. Well, now that same house, the person has to be making another $2,500 a month more to afford that, or $1,800 a month more to afford that same house. And again, these are numbers I'm pulling. I could do the math. Anybody can with an amortization scale. Super simple to find on the internet. And you could do this math. So what that happens is we are going to, there's no way around it. When money becomes less affordable, we've had really cheap money, historically cheap. So it's catch-22 because we love that in the business. We love cheap money or free money, and I've taken advantage of that like anybody else. If somebody's going to loan me money at 3.5% or 4 or 5, even at 5%, and I make 20% on my money elsewhere, of course I'm going to borrow money to make money. That's just what they do. Every money person does that. That's what you do. And so what in turn, what we will see, it's a matter of fact. So it's a matter of fact, these homes, these $325,000 homes, in my opinion, that have been going for $500,000 the last year, will now have to eke back closer to what people can afford. Even though we're in a housing shortage, that's another thing though. We're in a major housing shortage. It's not local, it's not statewide, it's nationwide. We are way behind.
Now, why is there a housing shortage? Is it?
I don't know if it's a great population boom, if people are making more money, if there's more qualified home buyers. Maybe it was simply because of the cheap money and the pre-approvals. I don't know how they get those numbers. Do they get those numbers from people that are pre-approved on loans, that have not bought, that are looking? Those numbers come from. Somebody might have better answers for me. I don't know. But so I've been told it's somewhere like 8-1 or 10-1. There's one. 1 or 2 houses per every 10 buyers. Again, though, if now those people can't afford a home, so that number could cut in half. And then there's, 1 or 2 homes for every 4 or 5 people. Then we don't really have that same kind of shortage that we had, is what it looks like on paper. So is it a smoke and mirror statistic thing? Or is it a legit, like we have 10 people that are qualified to buy homes now and will be, no matter what the interest rate is? What we're seeing locally, and from what I've been hearing and what we've seen in some of the places we've sold locally, it's a lot of cash buyers, a lot of baby boomer cash buyers, taking their money out of other, businesses they may have sold, 1031 exchanges, a lot of that going on. That's when you have an investment property and you sell that investment property. It's in your personal name and you're subject to capital gains tax, federal and state capital gains, depending on where you live. And what a 1031 is a 1031 is it's a tax deal where you can take that investment property, and it generally gives you, I think there's different terms for different rates and different schedules, is you could take that money and you could sell an investment property. So this could be a home that you lived in, but then you have not resided 2 of the last 5 years in, and you used it as a rental, for instance. A lot of first-time home buyers will do that. They'll buy a house, paid a little more than they were comfortable for, owned it for quite a while, found a better house they liked better, still wasn't quite enough equity to make them want to sell it. They hang on to it for 7, 8, 9, 10 years, and then like what's happened in the last year or two, crazy real estate inflation. They said, wow, I only paid $270 for that house back in 2005. Now it's worth $599. And I've had a tenant in there for 8 or 9 years, so I would like to sell that. Well, the trouble with it is that's an investment property, and that is, the government looks at that as we want our, I think it's roughly about 40% between state and federal capital gains. And again, it depends on the amount, how long, there's depreciation schedule, there's all kinds of factors in that. That's 30 to 50, give or take, 30 to 40, excuse me. And so you could take a 1031, you could sell a rental property or a commercial building, and then you could take it, and then you have 90 to 110 days to buy another one. And then all you're doing is, it's literally what it sounds like. It's an exchange. So there's no longer taxation on that money. It went from one place to another place. And so we've seen a lot of people with this pandemic that are multi-generational family business folks that have really big equity and big properties that are done. and they want to sell it, and then they're coming to the area, and they could buy a beach house on a 1031 exchange. Whether or not they're going to use it for a vacation rental or whatever, a home office, they can classify it as whatever they want to make those justifications. So those would actually also, they're cash buyers, because a 1031 is still cash. It's still their money. They sold that property. They have the cash. It's liquid, sitting in their bank account. Those are the buyers that's what you call a cash buyer. I mean, there's nobody bringing a suitcase of $1 million into an escrow office anymore. I'm sure there's some backdoor deals for 100 or 2 here and there that people know about. I've seen a couple, but for the most part, so you hear the term I bought, or there's a cash buyer, they're not bringing in bags of cash. It's just, they're not borrowing the money.
That's what that means.
From a bank or an investor.
Yeah.
They have the money in their bank account. And then they're generally going to bring a cashier's check or make a wire transfer is how you do cash deals. And so we do them all the time. And so you have the cash. So that's also a cash buyer, though. When you buy a property and you finance it through a bank, you have to get appraisals, inspections, and all of these things. As a cash buyer, depending on your level of concern with the property, or in like our case, when we're licensed contractors and knowledgeable real estate
fix it all up
flippers, we can come in and do our own inspections. We inspect our own properties when we look at them. We already know, because somebody will call me and be like, dude, this thing's fallen out of contract 5 or 6 times. They want $350 for it. The buyer says, I'll take $250 cash. You're the guy. You come over, you take a look at it and say, well, why is this thing falling out of escrow? What's wrong with it? Well, it needs a new septic. It needs this, this, and this. And sometimes it pencils out and sometimes it doesn't. Not so much in the last year. We haven't bought much in the last year. I think it was about a year ago we finalized our last couple deals, and we haven't bought anything in a year just because it's too competitive. Again, there's these out-of-state, out-of-town cash buyers rolling in, and they don't care. I mean, they're just, because it's fake money to them. They got $2, $3, $4 million bucks. They can buy a piece of crap property for $400,000 that's worth $250, and then they can put a $400,000 renovation on it, and it's all part of their tax write-off. So, and that's, or an exchange. And then really there's no real profit, no short-term gain on that, or profit, or none at all. It's just a smoke and mirrors tax shelter for them. And until that dries up, investors, won't be able to make any money. And that's a factor that but if the market slows, that trend it's cause and effect. The whole thing's a ripple effect. And so that should slow things. But, nobody, I mean, let's all hope to God. In my industry, we would never wish for a slowdown. We're not wishing that. I really honestly hope the Fed kind of goes, oh, maybe we made a mistake, and they reel it back to 4.25% next week or whatever and stop eking it up. I think their goal was to try to get at that 5.5%, 6%, which it's not the end of the world. It's just, I really like to see it under 5. But, let's be honest. I think my first home loan was like 13 or 14%. I've heard guys paying 18% in the 80s, and so, so getting down under 7 is like, I remember getting private loans at 7, maybe 10 years ago, and feeling like I won the lottery. Like, oh, dude, 7% on private money. And then now, well, the last couple of years, I've gotten some private money at like 5, and banks were at 3.25, and there were private investors willing to give me money at 5. I mean, that's just okay all day long. And I'd rather put money into, some dude or some gal into their pocket, into their kid's pocket, then, we deal with a local bank that we like a lot too. But, there's, at the end of the day, if it's a private person, it's like, heck yeah, dude, I'll put 5% in your pocket. And that adds up. You got a $200,000-$300,000 loan, 5% amortized over 30 years. You're paying a $1,500, $1,800 payment. 90% of that is freaking interest for the first 10 years. I mean, that's a lot of money. So that's the ultimate goal is you own property or anything, and you could sell it on private money and make that interest. You're going to make $150,000, almost double at term at 6 or 7%. You're going to make a ton of money in interest. So that's the money is being the bank. I learned that from all the old timers. Now, at some point I'd like to be the bank because I'm doing all the work and they're just sitting there making money on their money. They're just cashing checks.
Yeah.
And so
making money on
money. So will we see a downturn? I want to say a plateau for now. That if you're asking me my prediction of the markets, I think a 90-day kind of a plateau right now. We're going to see some of those midterm properties. I think the 500 range, 600 range. I've seen a couple locally recently that I feel were overlisted because of the hot market. Like some stuff that should be like 580, 590 that's like 750. And I'm closely watching those just because I want to see what they do. That's always for me because I want to see how close I feel. It's for me, it's a hobby, but I watch it pretty close. I try to get a pretty good feel of the local real estate market, what it's doing. And, we're dabbling. We still have a couple left to finish and sell. And then unless things change, I'll probably just be working for customers. I mean, I really don't have a lot. I might build a spec house. I've been saying that for the last couple of years. If I find the right deal on a lot, or I have a friend that owns a bunch of lots, I might do a partnership deal with him and build something. I don't know. So a flat, and again, it just all depends. I mean, where's the market going to go? We'll know. You're going to know. We'll know. We'll know by summer. But I don't see a collapse, yet. I think if the Fed if we see interest in the 6.5, 7 range, dude, we're going to see some shit. I mean, we're going to see some devastating.
Yeah.
But I mean,
like you're talking like 2008 2.0.
Not that rough because the banks haven't been doing irresponsible loans. So
okay.
I know that for sure because I have my hands on and I get to at least see the deals I've been on, and I see who we're selling these properties to, what they're putting in for a down payment, the equity, and also too, what we happen is, again, interest back then was not as good as it is now. 6, 7, 8, 9%, right? 10% on second loans. So they were loaning money to people that should have never, ever gotten money, right? Shitty credit, stated income, all of these practices that don't happen today. So the one good thing is, in all of these loans that have been written over the last 3 or 4 years, even though if the value is $600,000 and that house goes down to $450,000, well, they're only paying 3.25% if they got their mortgage locked down, right?
Yeah.
So you're never going to see, you can't go anywhere. You can't afford to sell it because it's worth less. And anything you buy is going to be 6 to 7 or 8% unless you pay cash.
Oh man. Yeah.
So no, we're not going to see a 2007, 2008. I mean, it would have to be something like hyperinflation, fuel at $10 a gallon. Some other factor, like the weird foreign shit that's going on. But no, financially, the financial institutions, at least my experience, they've been solid. They've been really good with their loan practices. They've been really good with their equity ratios, debt to income ratios. If we see job losses like we did in 07, 08, but again, most of that was because of irresponsible lending. People were borrowing too much money. They were living beyond their means. And then certain industries crashed. I mean, it was a multitude of factors. I don't see that coming anytime soon. I see a flat spot and a possible, but let's face it. I can tell you right now, like just because we're in on it, right? I think the market's overinflated by about 20%. I think this last year we've seen 20, 25. I mean, when the numbers come out, we're going to be astonished.
Yeah.
Because I see the shit that I sold and then I see what it's worth now and what it's going for just from like a year.
Yeah.
And I'm like kicking myself because I'm going, wow, my carrying costs were only $1,300 a month on something I sold for say 600 something. And then now it's worth 7.25 a year later. And I'm like,
so it's been going up.
It would only
still?
cost me $13,000 or $14,000 to make 100 extra in equity, on certain stuff. And so I honestly think it just overinflated too fast. And I don't think that, multitude of factors there too. Cheap interest rate, cheap money, building with the pandemic, the stupid shortages of material, lumber costs went through the roof, labor shortages forced people like us to pay people more. So you got people making more money in the construction industry. So it costs it used to be like you could build a house for $125 a square foot. And I'm hearing like $400 a square foot, $500 a square foot for housing. Like that's ridiculous. I haven't priced out all the material on a spec house, but I'm betting we could probably still build a a cheap, efficient house for under 200, but I don't know. I mean, like I'd have to actually price it all out, but still that's crazy money. $200 a square foot to build a regular basic house. And then you're talking, you got to buy the land, you got to pay the permit fees, you got to do the sewer and water tie-ins, you got to put in sidewalks in most cases. I mean, the bullshit that goes along with the lot costs, the paper, the permits, the system development fees. That's where the factor is yeah, I can go in and I could build a 1,500 square foot house for, $200,000 build cost, but it's going to cost me $200,000 on top of that in bullshit. The land cost, the $50 or $50,000 and permit and and fees and so on and so forth. And that's one thing that I would like to see, like luxury homes on the ocean. If it's over 5, 6, let's even say 750 plus build cost. Let's say a luxury house, right? You're building a luxury house. If it's going to be an affordable, whatever that may be defined by, let's get a panel together, right? That's what I'd like to see. And what's your use going to be for this home? And then if you can commit to a 5-year use for single family, for an affordable, for a rental, and then right on down. If it's going to be a rental, let's waive the fees. If you want to say you want to put it in the rental pool for 5 years, we're going to give you, not even deferred, let's just waive all system development fees, all school district fees. Let it go. Just waive them, right? You want to see building boom. You want to see regular investors, even like myself. I'd be a lot more motivated if I was 50,000 less, or even to say, hey, you're going to build a spec house and it's going to be retail under $500,000. We'll cut them in half, even if you're going to sell it. So we'll cut those down, in whatever. But there's been nothing like that. There's been no promotional stuff that maybe there's more options out there that I'm aware of recently, but at least, every time I check to go build a new house, it's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, we own a house that I should have probably torn down and rebuilt. But then I think it was going to be around 30,000. And that's not even me tearing it down. Like, we're talking just fees.
Just the fees.
I own the house.
Yeah.
There's water and sewer there. Everything's there. And then in that neighborhood, anything that you build, it's old neighborhood, doesn't have sidewalks in it, right? So now it's going to be close to 30,000 for permit fees. And then I got to still pay the money to tear it down and dispose of it.
Yeah.
So there's going to be 5,000-10,000 in fees to, for even if we use our machine and our dump truck. So say 10,000 extra. So now we're 40,000. And then where the water meter is located isn't appropriate. So it would have to be moved. So we'd have to probably get a new water meter, which is probably $3,800. Then in that particular neighborhood, anybody that builds a new house has to put in a sidewalk, even though there's no effing sidewalks on the entire side.
You to put a sidewalk.
Yeah, it's mandatory. Any new construction.
Is this the one over by the bayfront, the Bay Road?
No, it's up in the middle of town.
Oh.
It's a Newport property. But anything in Newport, if you're on a street, you have to put a sidewalk. Any new construction. So now I got to, even though that goes to nothing, sidewalk to nowhere. So your house is going to have a beautiful sidewalk in front of it. So that's the rules that they do. So instead, I can say, well, okay, I can add 50,000 now. And that's my opinion, what it's going to cost me between sidewalks, water fee, permit, tear down, labor.
Yeah.
Another 50 grand, right? So instead of 50, I can put that on the renovation budget and I can do a lot of really cool shit for 50 grand. And so it's no longer a tear down. So now we're going to rebuild an old house from the 70s.
Yeah.
And when it could have been a brand new house on the street, right? But instead, they're not going to promote that. They're like, oh, yeah, no, we're going to penalize you for building new. Is that weird?
Is that bureaucracy? Is that politics? What is that? It just seems like a pain in the ass. Like, somehow a middleman messing it all up.
Yeah, I don't have any answers. I honestly don't. I just don't know. What it does is it makes me not want to operate or do anything here in the city. Honestly, I'm selling all my real estate here. I've obviously pulled up all my businesses here. By the end of this year, I will have zero affiliation with the city locally. Just because, again, it goes back to City of Wallport, freaking awesome. Love that place. City officials are great. They're welcoming. They're business friendly. They want to be a part of what you're doing. They're supportive. And here I just don't get that. It's cold. It's just, you're just another number, just another permit, just another fee, you know?
Yeah.
There's no personal aspect to it at all. And it's not a city. You know, if it was Salem or Eugene or whatever, and you didn't, and again, I'm not a big time developer. I'm not a big time contractor, but they know who I am. I've been around enough, you know. I've fixed up enough crappy little places around here. And obviously I've never done anything controversial. I've never tried to pull one over on anybody. I'm always just trying to clean shit up, you know, make it better, you know, whatever else. And it's like, I just never felt like they gave a shit, you know, honestly. And that's so what that does is you take an average guy who's fairly ambitious, who wants to build shit and would build a lot more, says, well, you know, don't really feel the love here, you know. And I know I'm not the only one. I know there's a lot of other more ambitious developers that I've personally known from out of the area that have wanted to do some really cool shit here and really have not had any welcoming, nothing. You know, it's like, you know, they're just stacked with everything they can't do instead of what they can do. You know, and so I really get tired of this bullshit of like, oh, we want to help people. You know, we're here for affordable housing is such an issue. Well, you guys literally have the tools in your tool bag to fix it. And, you know, other than some roundtable discussions and some cheesy tax deferment for some low income housing that has probably been greased by, you know, somebody somewhere. You know, they don't care about the onesie twosie guys. They don't care about the new construction little stuff. They don't care. They really don't. And that's unfortunate because there's a lot of small contractors around here that have the ability to do, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 spec houses a year if they wanted to, you know, and that really, when I say spec house, these are, you know, internet plans, 1,600 to 2,200 square feet, cookie cutter with some decent finishes. You can build those pretty fast. You know, and nothing's truly that affordable these days, but that's about as affordable as you can get, right? And why do you not see rows and rows? Everywhere else you go in Western Oregon, are you not seeing rows and rows and rows of those being built?
Oh, yeah.
Everywhere. Even Lincoln City. Go into the outskirts of all the side roads of Lincoln City, and they are building like I've never seen before. Are you seeing that anywhere here?
Well, just at South Beach.
A little bit in South Beach.
We call them, there's like a surf spot. You like, nobody surfs down there, but it's just that row of all the same ones. But I think they're all vacation rentals, so it's not even the same
you're talking
thing.
About in the gated community, right? Yeah,
I don't know, actually. I've never been there. But if you're at South Beach State Park.
I know what you're talking about.
And you look down south.
South Shore, yeah. Yeah, that's a gated community. That's a little different story. Those are luxury homes. I mean, in luxury townhomes.
Okay.
And that's a different deal.
those are toast.
Yeah. But
those are going to get blown away.
I mean, they're in the tsunami zone,
They're like
obviously.
right
those are ground zero.
Front row seat to death.
Yeah. But they're beautiful places. And I mean, you go there and I literally feel like I'm 20 miles away from Newport. I feel like I'm somewhere special on vacation. I mean, that place is nice. South Shore's nice.
I'd live there.
Oh, dude, it's nice. They got the big private, tennis courts.
Oh, I've seen the gate for that.
Oh, yeah.
I've just never been in. I guess I'd skated.
Yeah.
I would have the Paul people.
They don't let folks like us in there. No, I've furnished a lot of houses in there. We've worked.
Just flash my Rolex at them and then let me in the gate.
Maybe.
Not even then. What do you need? What do I need, man? I'll get it.
Maybe like a weed eater, a backpack blower.
I could drive a wave van, I'll fix your internet.
Right, yeah. A Ford Ranger with a ladder rack. I don't know. Something like that. That'll get you in, dude. But
you mentioned actually kind of a cool thing about incentivizing people to like make their home available for housing for a short period of time to get rid of some of the fees, permit fees or whatever. But that kind of reminds me, like, so what do you once before you told me what you thought about short-term rentals, and I just thought that was really interesting.
We live in a resort community, the whole Oregon coast, as much as anybody wants to admit it or not. VRDs, we were sold a line of BS with this legislature, this ballot measure that was on. There will never be a time in our life that what is there? I mean, you might have the numbers. What's there? 540 VRDs and unincorporated, right? 500 something. 565, 500 and something. I bet you less than 10% of those would ever be considered to be an affordable monthly rental. And I'm being generous. So let's take 50 of those, and you're going to say the 50 that people might turn into an affordable rental. What's affordable these days? Under $2,000? Well, you take an average house So my rule of thumb, I've owned monthly rentals and I refuse to do it because I'm a 10% of overall value per month investor. So I'm not saying what I paid for it. If I paid $200,000 for the property, that's irrelevant, because if it's worth $500,000 today, guess what? It better be paying me $5,000 per month. That's my rule of thumb as an investor. That's what that money is going to make me in any other market that I play in. That's the game I play. You know, I'm a money guy. If I'm not making 10% a month on my money, it's not working hard enough for me. And so, and you know, there's other landlords that are more of a tax game for them. They're willing to make a little bit less. They paid a lot less. They're happy with $2,500 a month on a $500,000 house. I'm not, because I look at risk and reward. I look at that, you know, by the time I'm paying tax, and super steep taxes, by the way, in this county, I mean, for property tax, and they keep going up and going up and going up with this inflation. And so you take these places, they're never, ever going to be a monthly rental. And if they are, they're certainly not going to be what we're going to call classified as affordable. You're never going to fix that problem. So that's, you know, that's my take on it. I mean, you can give me any opinion you want. You can give me any statistic. You can be passionate about it, whatever, that's fine. You know, I'm just going off of what my experience, my local real estate knowledge. Since I was 17 years old, I've been playing with real estate in this community, whether it's for developers, realtors, construction guys, owning my own stuff. I've owned vacation rentals. I've owned monthly rentals. I've owned commercial rentals. I've owned commercial stores. I've owned regular residential homes. I've owned bare land. I mean, I've had every single aspect that you can own in our zoning here. And so I have the experience for that. Does it make me an expert? Probably not. You know, does it give me a little experience to speak on the subject? I'd like to think so. So let's go to that. Vacation rentals, point blank period, will never be affordable housing. Let's just take that equation off. Are they a nuisance? Do you want one as a neighbor? Fuck no. Do I want one as a neighbor? No. So let's be honest. You came here, you bought a house in a nice neighborhood, and you're pissed because there's 50 people coming and going every single weekend out of your neighborhood house, and they're partying until 2 o'clock in the morning. And I get it. I get that.
It's hard to argue with that.
Right. So that's what it is. It's honestly, it's a minority group that moved here and they didn't have enough money to buy a big enough house that was secluded enough for their taste. So now they want to punish us and our zoning laws to restrict people to use their property of how they wish. You know, the vacation rentals, I want to come back. We talked about the recession earlier. Vacation rentals literally saved hundreds of homes in this community from being lost to the bank. We lost hundreds, if not thousands, of homes back to banks. They got sold. Some of them were owned by multiple generations that people lost fucking everything.
Yeah.
And I personally know several friends of mine that struggled, myself included. I did one of mine vacation rental because I couldn't afford to do anything else. And I was upside down in it. I couldn't pay the mortgage by renting it for monthly rental to have somebody trash it. I needed to do it as a vacation rental to generate enough revenue to pay the overhead so I didn't lose it to the bank. And I have other friends. You and I have a mutual friend that very well, we both struggled that. Him and I struggled through that whole time. Any of us young guys that did not have the capital, that did not have income that was impervious to the recession, we had to hustle. We had to do weird shit. In vacation rentals, we're not the only ones. There's hundreds of them in this community, people that owned a home that actually moved into more modest means with a relative and vacation rentaled their home to pay the fucking bills on it so they could get enough equity back to eventually either sell it or move back in or turn it into something else or refi it at a better rate. And so this was something that really almost saved our community from the recession. And now they're being targeted again because we have these people, almost all from out of the area, by the way. They've come up here and they bought a house 2, 3, 4 years ago. They retired out of California or Arizona or Vegas, right? It's the same stereotype. I've furnished hundreds of them. I know them. And they're opinionated. They were a professional something wherever the fuck they came from, right? So they come from here and they buy a place, and they have an annoying vacation rental that's in the neighborhood, and it's annoying, and I get it, dude. I've lived next to them too. I've rented them. We've all witnessed it. You know, you got drunk asses passing out in the deal or breaking windows or, you know, people domestically arguing, causing trash and whatever. So I get it. But how do you fix it? You don't fix it by eliminating all of them over a time period. You get stricter regulations, better enforcement. Matter of fact, I mean, again, you go down to places like Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, go down to Florida. There are hundreds of thousands, and they are bringing in millions upon millions of dollars in tax revenue, in business revenue from the renters. The potential here for the Oregon coast, and I know there's a lot of conservationists that are like, well, we don't want the people here. We don't want it. Well, it's not 1970. It's not Oregon of yesteryear. I mean, our population is going up like crazy from other areas. It's going to happen. We're going to be overpopulated for our infrastructure. That's already happening. Do you want to be able to pay for it? How do you pay for it? You have to fucking tax people. Again, I'm a fiscal conservative. I hate taxes. But do you want to fix the problem? I'll tell you how to fix the problem. You charge crazy transient room taxes. You overinflate and create more vacation rentals. And then you've solved all of these issues because now you can afford the best enforcement teams. You can afford affordable housing. You can make millions of dollars to infuse into housing projects that are truly affordable housing, like the apartment. And again, I say affordable housing. There's no such thing in the Oregon coast. We live in a resort community. People aren't moving here from Kentucky to get affordable housing. They're coming here because it's a resort community and it's fucking beautiful. And that's what happens. You don't go to Laguna Beach and go, man, I moved here in my van and I can't afford a place. Well, no shit. That's kind of obvious stuff. I mean, it's really obvious, really. I mean, it's just the way it is. It's a beautiful resort community that's world renowned that everybody wants to live at. There's going to be, the only way to get affordable housing is to build more subsidized apartment complexes. Is that the most desirable? No. Is it going to fix everything? No. There's going to be families in that middle, or have even subsidized first-time homeowner programs that build entire neighborhoods that help people with down payments, whatever that may be, or that subsidize rent programs with revenues from transient room tax. We could probably double our tourism in this county if it was promoted correctly, if we had more places for them to stay. But instead, we have friends from all over the country. We have friends from the Midwest, throughout the stores, through other relationships. And what we've heard over the last 5 years, and this was even before the pandemic, is, especially in Newport, is that people don't want to come here anymore. Most of the families, our friends from Washington, our friends from Idaho, where they go? They go to Seaside, they go to Lincoln City, they go to these other places that are more tourist oriented. There's there's hundreds and hundreds of, high-rise hotels on the beach. There's all of these places that cater to tourists. If you've noticed that with these.
Yeah, Lincoln City definitely does cater more.
Oh man, they cater, and they are making, I don't know what their numbers are in their transient tax revenue, but my God. But Newport has kind of it's been stagnant in this, well, we're a working port community and we're this and we're that. Well, really, I've watched over the last 2 decades all of the other communities around us expand and grow and improve. And it really seems to me it's pretty stagnant here. I mean, sure, you get some corporate, you get an O'Reilly's auto parts store, or you get a new, supermarket, or a new real estate office, or a new bank. I mean, wow, that's cool, So, it really, no, it's not. We're not really seeing the development here that we're seeing. And I mean, Western Oregon has been booming. It's been crazy. I mean, go to Albany. There's a new subdivision every 5 minutes and a new strip mall and cool shit to do. And, and that's like, and here in the argument is, well, we don't have enough land and we don't have enough that. We'll create it. I mean, there's spaces all over South Beach. And then also I'm here, there's like, well, there's 50 acres here that's dividable. There's 50 acres. It's out there. There's buildable land. There's developable land. It's out there. It's there. Why is it here? Is it so stagnant? But I don't want to get too off track. The VRD thing, what is my take on it? Sure, better restrictions, better enforcement, but not limiting. We do not need to do that. We are already lacking in this county, and it's particularly central, Newport, where the trouble you're going to see is places like Seal Rock. Between Seal Rock and Walport, it's unincorporated. There's quite a few. I don't know how many, but I know of a few that I've furnished down there. I owned one at one time down there in Seal Rock. So those are the areas that are going to suffer the worst. They're small areas. they're not really populated areas anyway. There's really no reason to regulate them. Again, you buy a beach house and you cashed out your retirement in California and you're here and you're annoyed because, you got loud neighbors on the weekends. I'm sorry, man. You should have made a little bit more money and bought a bigger house with a bigger fence. That's the thing is you can always move, and this is an oceanfront place. I think anything oceanfront should be no limitation whatsoever. You should be able to do a bed and breakfast, a hotel, whatever. We need lesser restrictions. We need lesser zoning laws, and until you see that, you're just going to be stagnant. And then there's less revenue and less tax revenue and less business revenue and less people want to come here, and they're just going to avoid it. I've been saying this for the last 5 years. People are going to start avoiding this place. The more crime comes in, you got zombies walking on the street, people, they've stopped the begging a little bit on the corners, but that was one that I heard from some friends of ours that rolled into town, and there was some profane, and they're from, some little town in the suburbs, right? And they're like, wow, there's some scary guy on the street with a weird sign with profanities on it, And then we were just thinking, well, maybe we won't stay tonight. How many more? And then, or you come and you have a poor experience. I know for me, I like to travel, and I like to local travel. And I like to go, there's certain places I go, and even out of state. There's little communities or big communities I'll go to. I like Carlsbad, California, right? That's one of those, it's a sleepy little beach town for California. It's, located between LA and San Diego down there, right? And so there's some suburbs that are kind of busy, but I go down there and I feel like I've almost kind of been back in time 20 years. It's super clean. It's super laid back. I just go out for walks all the time. And, so I know that. So I'll go there, right? But then you just go up a little bit north and you end up into Anaheim by Disneyland and whatever else. Fuck, I can't get out of there fast enough, right? I feel like I'm going to die. It's between all the weird, the activity from Disneyland and all the traffic and sirens and crazy. And here we are, 25 miles difference, right? And so it's the same between us and Lincoln City. You have the same place. Somebody's going to come here and be like, well, there's really not a whole lot of places to stay. And it is what it is. And, and then I could just drive up north. And then those in-between areas you have homeowners making a little bit extra money that are doing those improvements that have, a lot of those places are $1 million plus, even in, South Beach, Seal Rock. You got any house on the ocean now that's decent, it's $1 million, right?
Well, yeah, just the view alone raises at some. Right. I don't know how much. You probably know.
Well, yeah. It just depends on the good quality of the home. I'm sure there's still some oceanfront stuff that's less than $1 million, but not much. Crap hole is $8.99, right? So
little shack.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. But anyway, so a lot of these places that we've furnished, are 1.3, 1.5, 1.8, right? So now instead, you got a lot of people that can still afford those, right? So they're probably going to get sold. Now, what's going to happen? So if somebody's justifying that as a supplemental income to keep their beach house so they can afford, a lot of people are doing vacation rental so they can come and stay. They said, well, we can afford to pay the mortgage on a $5,000, $6,000 a month mortgage for a beach house. Well, if I'm not bringing in that amount of money to pay the mortgage any longer, can I justify that? Can I justify that payment? So no. But there are still people that can afford it. It could possibly go down. Is it going to ever be affordable rental? No. What it's going to do is going to go from 1.5 to maybe 1.2, right? So now it's going to go to 1.2. Now you're going to have Joe Stockbroker from New York who buys a beach house because he's always wanted a tax shelter beach house in Oregon. So, it's beautiful. I went there once when I was 16. Great. So he buys it, right? So he sits there and Joe Stockbroker has a house from New York and Oregon. What happens there? Nobody ever uses it, right? He comes here once or twice a year. Maybe his cousin Joe comes over from Vegas, right? That's it. They don't spend any money here in the community. They're here once or twice a year. Sits there, gets dilapidated. It's not being cleaned. It's not being maintained. They're not consuming the water and power that they would be doing. So all of that trickle-down money, right? All of the money that goes in the housekeepers, the cleaners, the window cleaners, the people that are fixing and repairing, when the appliances go out. There's so much money and commerce related to these small vacation rentals. They're contributing so much more. And again, they're buying furniture from us. I've furnished, when I was towards the end, I was just doing our commercial clients. We're at one small store. I would say our commercial clients were probably upwards of $200,000 a year. And I could have probably doubled or tripled that, honestly. I never really hustled it, but our commercial clients, That's a very big part. And I wasn't even scratching the surface. I wasn't, soliciting. I wasn't doing any of that. So you could really, that's huge. And that's one store for us. So now, and most of those were in unincorporated areas. Take that away, right? Because guess what? Bayshore,
Yeah.
unincorporated. So think about how many vacation rentals are in Bayshore. I mean, and those are all coming off. I bet you there's probably 60, maybe 70. There's a lot, maybe more.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to Ken, News Times, and he was telling me, he's like, yeah, none of this means anything if they can't enforce it and there's no real plan. At least there wasn't at the time of how they were going to enforce it. And this whole thing just seems like a big.
Genuinely, people that have these homes are business savvy, and they're not rule breakers like that.
Oh, so
if
even
you put an ordinance into play, then 75% of them are going to go away before it even comes in, because and it's already happening. I already know them. They're making plays.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, they're not going to wait around. They're not going to say, "Oh, let's see what happens in the legal battle and whatever else." They're making moves right now because the markets are hot, and they're going to move that money elsewhere, where it's going to make them some more money.
Yeah.
And they're not stupid. These people aren't stupid. They're not a bunch of dummies here buying beach houses to make vacation rentals to piss off the neighbors. They're doing it so they can make a little bit of money and have some tax shelters and then also have a beach house. That's really, and they're normal people. I know a lot of them, and most of them are real regular folks, and they love coming out to their beach house. They love these communities. And now they're kind of being slapped in the face saying, well, we don't want you here. And so what happens when you're being told you don't? They leave. They go to other communities where it's promoted. There's other vacation areas that are like, tons of condos that are used for vacation rental. And it's nothing for them to sell their 1, 2, 3 houses for $1 million each and then go to Aspen, Colorado, or any of these other places that promote that kind of shit and that they also appreciate. And then they buy it, right? So then what happens here? We suffer. The guy mowing the lawn suffer because now he's got less clients, right? Because Joe from New York, he doesn't give a shit if his lawn gets mowed every week. He doesn't care. He just does it the bare minimum, so whatever it costs. So now we're talking, I mean, this is devastating. It's honestly, it's going to be devastating. So the phase out process, and it's going to start, it's already started. I've already know people that are listing them and selling them as we speak. It's happening right now. So they're listing vacation rentals. They're getting out of it. Secondary homeowners are buying them, and they're not going to get used. They're not going to use the services. They're not going to get used. The county's happy because the property taxes get paid regardless. But everybody else on the trickle down, everybody that's providing services and goods is getting the short end of the deal. So, in the end, it'll be, what's I know it's kind of funny and unrelated, but the band Fish, right? There's a line in one of the songs, and I think it says, what is the shelf life for bad legislation, right? And so I think we are living in a nightmare of bad legislation, and we're going to pay the price, and our kids are going to pay the price. Whether we see it in the short term of a year or two, I think it's the long term. The 5 or 10 years from now, we're going to be sitting in shitholes, and going, what happened to this place? Remember when? And I hope I'm wrong. I honestly do. But I think if things keep going the way they're going, that at the current rate we're going, it's just the overregulation and the huge government spending and really no real care for promoting private industry. You got to remember the taxes have to come from somewhere. They have to come from somewhere. You can't just tax it until you're dead. I mean, so really, if you have a viable, fun, entertaining thing you can tax, then by all means, tax it. That's great. Right? Let's do that. I mean, it happens all the time on shit we don't even know. I mean, I don't smoke, but every tobacco product, weed, alcohol. I mean, every time I buy a drink, I'm getting taxed. And I mean, you know me, I like to drink. So, I'm paying the sin taxes, I think I'm not 100% for certain, but I think there might be some taxes on junk food and stuff out there and see, that's funny. Cause I mean, we're paying taxes on shit we don't even know we're paying taxes on.
I didn't even think about it like that. Oh, I bought a beer. I paid a tax.
You paid a tax. You did.
And then like the sticker on there. You're paying taxes.
You know what the sad part is whether it's dropped to the consumer. I don't know if you paid a direct but the guy who brewed it paid the tax, right? And then I believe the retailer pays a tax. And so there's this, and ultimately who's paying the tax?
Yeah, it gets passed on
Casey's
to the consumer.
Paying the tax.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that's the way it goes. Every fee, every overhead. I'm going to make my 60%. So I don't care what, you charge for it. So that's what's going to happen. So if it was $1 last year, but it's $3 this year, then it's going to be, $5.80 or whatever to the consumer instead of $1.25 or $1.50 or $1.60. So it's just, you have a marketable thing out here. We have a beautiful coastline. We have great, potential to be responsible, though, to have good tourism and to market it and to really collect a huge amount of money that can, and again, it's, if you're not all about money and you don't want the money for infrastructure, but you have it, it's there, it's capable. Let's do that. Let's tap onto something. I see it that way. I see an opportunity rather than a nuisance, and again, if you have a habitual offender, you have somebody that's not, affecting the rules. You have a tenant. Those tenants, they need to have repercussions themselves for poor judgment. You have one bad night. Those tenants need to go the next day, and that needs to be a signed deal, or have some sort of a fine imposed or whatever, right? And I know that's hard. It's hard to create that. Somebody,
that's more, give you bad stars,
right? That's more
bad
that's
ratings.
more legislation. That's more this. That's more that. But I honestly see there's probably easier ways to do it. I'm not that guy, right? I'm not organizing a VRD thing. Rather than me, I just liquidated and quit. Sold my vacation rentals, sold my monthly rentals, sold my commercial buildings, and said, "Fuck it, I don't want to play anymore. I'm taking my ball and going home." And so that's it. When it becomes, again, though, you don't know how many people, and I won't even call them conservatives, just old timers that I know that have old money around here. They're gone, dude. They left over these last 3-4 years, and they're not coming back. And those guys were big producers. A lot of them were builders, developers that have built a lot of shit around here. And same thing. Guess what? Does anybody miss them? None of these people even know who they were. And that's the saddest thing, that guys that have built multiple buildings around here and done multiple things. And, and I look at that and it's sad. It's sad to me to see that those giant dinosaurs fall or just leave and nobody gives a shit. That's sad, and I see it and I'm sad. I'm like, wow, man, that's crazy. You're leaving, huh? Another one. And we were there for a while. Mariah and I are like, wow, you're going too. And it's, it's the same story. It's Arizona, it's Idaho. It's Arizona, it's Idaho, or both.
No Oklahoma.
I'd not seen. Tennessee. Few to Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Yep, few to Tennessee. Few to the Carolinas. Carolinas are a hot one right now. So good. Apparently, a fairly good spot to go.
I keep hearing Oklahoma's
nice. Yeah, I've never heard that.
I just hear it's really a good deal. You can get a lot for your money.
Well, isn't that where the Tiger King was from? I think that's where that took place.
Seriously?
I'm almost positive.
Yes, that's where that happened.
Oh, thanks for chiming in, dude.
I was like, wonder if you were still alive.
Yeah. Good. So,
Tiger King.
Yeah, but that goes to show you, when I think Oklahoma, I almost synonymously think of people like that. So that's kind of why I don't think I would ever want to go there. And nothing against, if anybody on here is from Oklahoma, a
good buddy of mine's moving there.
Yeah. Well, you'll probably see him sooner than later.
I feel like, he's moving he's going to get destroyed by a tornado.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. If I'm not mistaken, I believe, is that also the capital of tornadoes in the United States, Dayton?
Yeah.
You want to look that up?
Dayton, he's got to get on the computer.
I'm almost positive that there's more tornadoes in Oklahoma recorded each year than any other state.
Oh,
I'm generally full of shit, but we'll check it.
Wait, it's got to be isn't there Tornado Alley? That's a thing. That's a thing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Where they come up out of the Gulf of Texas and then
it's Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, we got a winner.
Well,
you win a bottle of water.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm just there. If there's one place that I've never ever desired to even travel to, I think it would be Oklahoma. I want to go to Texas, but Oklahoma, which just nuzzles right on that eastern border.
Yeah.
I would rather go to probably Afghanistan. Honestly.
Okay, but my buddy, he lives in Tillamook, and he's trying to be a fitness trainer. And I want to have him on the podcast.
Yeah, this is getting weirder by the minute, dude.
He's like, well, but it's like Tillamook seems like a terrible place to have a fitness
Yeah. Like,
business.
He could do like
So
I was thinking like maybe he could specialize in like cow milking yoga, or something like
well, he doesn't like Tillamook.
like,
He's only there because of his girlfriend.
Squat sitting on the milk bucket. Like
Dude, have you ever milked a cow or milked a goat or?
no.
Okay.
But I did milk a pig once. You saw me. You were there, I think. I squirted somebody with some.
Oh yeah. I told you did that. You did milk the pig.
I was just.
You should have. You should have drank it.
Next time.
I milked a goat though, man. And I tell you, it's like you have to use a lot of these weird thumb muscles, like that you never use, and it really burns.
Technique.
It's like you have to really,
the teat.
I don't know. It's like.
I thought about having to milk our cows if we, if the shit hits the fan.
Okay, well, what are what kind of cows are those?
The Scottish Highlands.
Okay, and you can drink their milk like normal? It's like normal to drink that? Or is it like weird?
I've never tried it. I don't know. I mean, I would think it would just be cow milk. I mean, they look like regular cows to me. I mean, what's the difference?
They look like Cousin It, except for like a cow Cousin It.
Yeah, they kind of remind me of like really cool like surfer stoner cows because they got like the hair that goes like in their eyes, and their you can never see their eyes. They're like hiding from you.
Dude, I was hanging out with your cows the other day when you guys were.
I told you,
I was hanging out.
Surfer
like the
stoner
baby cow. The
man.
baby cow was like checking me out.
Yeah,
it was like, and it didn't trust me though.
It doesn't trust anybody.
No, because I was like, no matter where I'd go, it would like keep its eyes on me.
Yeah.
And then like eventually I was like, oh, this cow seems nice. I'm gonna try to get closer, and it kept running away. Until I was like, I'm gonna see how far I can play this game. So I just followed it until it like went back through the barbed wire. And I wasn't like being aggressive.
No.
But I was just like, I kind of want to see if he's gonna go back in.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna film it.
She does. She free range. She wanders around. She's still small enough to navigate through the fence barbs. So our fence is apparently not good enough for the little ones, and so
you're gonna have to ramp up the security.
We got two new, I won't call them calves, they're like yearlings that they have not figured it out yet. So I'm sure that they're sporty enough.
Lowly cow.
Right, but obviously the grass is greener on the other side.
Oh yeah, they got no grass over there because they ate it all.
They're not stomping on it and shitting on it. So so the grass is greener, and that's the way it always works, right?
So my buddies, Ron's actually he's in a band with this lady named Evelyn. Their band's called Revelin.
Oh, okay.
And they
Ron and Evelyn together.
Yeah, Revelin.
Yeah.
They're really folky, soulful stuff. It's really cool. But Evelyn got us some yak meat from this guy in Eugene.
Okay.
And so he bought it and it's like, oh yeah, you want,
yeah.
I don't know if we paid or whatever, but for the first batch. But we ate it one day. We all had a bunch of beers. It was both my roommates.
And it was really good.
Holy shit.
Oh, so it was like a drug deal.
Yak.
They gave it to you the first yak for free. And then they were like, dude, this is $50 a pound. And then it's like, what do they call the real expensive Japanese beef?
Oh, I don't know.
It's like Wagyu. Yeah, there. Thanks, Dayton.
Hey, this guy's coming in handy.
Yeah. So like the yak is like the new Wagyu, right? It's like, I'm probably saying that wrong. So, yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, those people are moving to her farm, and that's Summit. So that's between Toledo and Corvallis.
Right.
And so it's like, now we're going to get the yak hookup. And you're right, it is expensive. Not $50 a pound. I think
maybe
it's
10.
I think it's closer to 10, but it's like.
Yeah, because ours are worth in the range of, depends on, it's kind of also a luxury market. It's a super lean meat, and it's kind of been compared to like bison. And so, I've heard as high as $8-9 a pound, for the Highland stuff. And it takes longer for them to mature. So where a regular, like a Black Angus, they'll harvest at like 14 to 18 months. These are prime when they're, say, like 3 years old.
Oh, really?
So it takes a little longer. So we're kind of stupid for growing them out. But I think I'm going to get I was thinking about getting like some Angus steers or some crosses. And then so I could have something that'll...
A little faster.
Exactly. That we can focus more on the meat. And then right now, the Highland market is more... it's better. You make more money selling the calves. So they breed, and then you have a calf. And then once you wean them at like 6 or 7 months, then they're going for like $1,500 to $1,800. And so you can sell them for a lot more money than you would if you were to grow them out for meat.
And did your cows make those babies?
We have one mama and calf pair, but our bull did not make it. That we bought them.
So you're not going to breed them, or you can?
We are.
Gonna breed them.
Yeah. We got 6 heifers or 5 heifers and 1 bull, and that's the goal is to make babies, man.
My girlfriend grew up on a dairy farm.
Oh.
And she'd talk about how...
Does she know how to help them?
Well,
because that's the talk. Is like, I don't know if our bulls kind of figured it out, so I think somebody might have to come in there and help them along.
I used to live on a horse breeding farm. It's kind of funny. So everybody had some different farm experience here.
Yeah.
And
well, I've had none until recently.
Well, I saw horses fuck.
Yeah.
And
well,
we
just got crazy in here, you guys. Yeah.
I mean, this is all.
I didn't know that's where we were going. So full disclosure.
So this is a gypsy horse. You ever heard of a gypsy horse?
No, but yeah.
It's this. So there is this
Sounds
horse.
Exotic.
It was from Dublin, Ireland.
Okay.
And his name was Clover.
Jesus.
Whatever, but so it's a horse breeding farm. This is part of the deal. Okay. It's not weird.
Yeah.
But the thing is about these gypsy horses is they're kind of stout. And they got the long hair on their hooves, and they're and
almost like a Clydesdale or something.
Probably like that sort of. But like the lady, it was my my art teacher in high school. I lived with them for a little while after I graduated, and Jolly Hibbets, Egret Flats Farms in Bandon. Anyway, so she's breeding, and she's got invited me to watch or whatever. And it's like this other horse that's much bigger, taller. And so she had to get the gypsy horse in like this hole so it could like reach.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I had to
I think it's reverse actually. I think it was reverse. No. The gypsy horse was small, and the
tall
horse,
the
female,
tall, yeah. Okay.
And
so they had to move it around. You had to get them like a step stool. So
kind of, yeah.
Yeah, we had that really creepy pig. I think we still have him. His name is Ben.
Yeah.
And he just didn't really mature or grow as large as most of the boars do. And he is like the horniest little pig ever. And he was going around like mounting everybody and everything, like pigs, dogs, whatever. And it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Can't even reach, poor guy.
Can't even reach.
No. Here's these giant, 180 pound, female pigs. And here's little Ben who's like 30 pounds,
Oink, oink.
We always joke that he was like this skinny, trailer park kid,
Trailer park pig.
Yeah. Like the neck tattoos, and the like weird patchy goatee.
but they had to kind of orchestrate the mating, and so I think that maybe that's what has it with the cows. I've never seen cows because they have to like jump up, and it's like cows are so big and heavy, and they don't seem like they're agile enough to maybe jump up. I have no idea. I've never even thought about looking up cows.
Yeah, and it's not on my list actually. Honestly, to Google it, I don't want to do that, so not gonna.
Not in my job description.
I do have the safety off though, because if you got to look something up, you just don't.
Yeah.
You don't want to.
You know what I will say is that when we talk about stuff like this, is then they then become Mariah's cows, so they're no longer mine. So if
she has to handle mating the cows.
Yeah, I'm not. I am not a cowboy at all. So
I just showed Dayton a little sequence in the next episode of Oregon Offgrid about the cows. We were talking about earlier, you guys counting the cows, and it's like Sesame Street. It's pretty funny.
That is funny.
Let's see what? Holy cow!
Yeah, it got a little out of hand, didn't it?
10 o'clock.
Yeah, you're gonna get me.
I think we're gonna have to call it. I was like, oh man, it's got to be like 8:30 by now.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, folks. Thanks for listening. Thanks for coming on, Abe.
And I didn't want to, a little disclaimer. I probably complained a little too much. I honestly, I got a little negative Nelly. You touched on some subjects that I was a little passionate about at the end, and so.
Well, I wanted to talk about the vacation. I even told Ken. I was like, because Ken doesn't want to touch it, because I work for the News Times, but this podcast is not a News Times podcast, so we can talk about things that don't reflect the News Times.
I don't have a dog in the fight anymore, and so, but I can appreciate both sides. I don't agree with it, but I wish we could do more of them and use the money for good. But that being said, I don't want to be negative about any of the stuff. And there's a lot of positive going on out there too. We're at the end of the pandemic and all of that, and so I did. There was certain topics that we touched on that I was frustrated. I just don't want people to think I'm negative. You know what I mean? And so it's
No,
like, yeah.
Abe's a positive guy. I'm out there helping film and stuff, and he even feeds me sometimes. He's a nice guy. He doesn't just
occasionally when you're nice.
If he's nice.
No, I know. And so, so I just felt like we went down a little bit of a rabbit hole. I had fun talking about my previous history and that, and then we got onto some of those hot topics, and I was a little negative. And we do have a lot of so let me rewind this too. There's a lot of local officials that I really appreciate. So too, and that not everybody's, it's above them. It's legislation, it's rules, it's fees, it's whatever.
Yeah, it's a collective effort.
Oh, absolutely. And so there's a lot of really cool local people here at the local government level and the local planning departments that we love, and we've worked hand in hand with, Lincoln County, City of Newport, all of those guys. And, it's been great. It's probably, everybody's got answers to all that stuff. It's a lot more complex than just, reduce the fees and make it easier,
But you could, the other side, it's probably a lot more complicated than just axing them all too.
Right. Yeah.
There's definitely a lot.
I just wanted to reiterate that I'm not all negative. And obviously we live 12 miles inland. I do appreciate that lifestyle, East County, a little bit more than the beach lifestyle. That's just me. It is what it is. I like to come here and enjoy the great restaurants and the view, but I also like to go home. And that's just, my life has changed. My lifestyle's changed. My wants and desires have changed. And, I'm not all negative all the time. And those are just a couple of, in case you knew that. You knew those hot points that would probably get me fired up a little bit.
Everybody knows Abe is an asshole now. No, I'm just kidding.
No. And there's positive ways. I mean, we can fix that stuff positively and create really cool shit. So, and let's hope the leaders start seeing that at some point. If we run out of revenue and we run out of stuff, then you got to fix it. You can't, you got to have tax money to do cool shit. And you got to make people feel good about paying the taxes, right? I mean, nobody wants to just get slapped with big fat taxes just for the purpose of it. So, get it from people that are recreating, that they don't know. We've all done that. You rent a vacation rental for, $800 a night or whatever else. You're not paying attention to the $120 taxes or the, $100 fees on there. You're just stoked to go someplace with your family, And so I think there's ways, there's really super cool ways out there. And, but I also see too, the people voted, and that's I'm always for democracy. It is what it is. I think we got kind of sold a line, but
I think of pirates with democracy, because they're like, pirates were some of the earlier democratic, it's like.
Actually, there's a layer of truth to that. It's been found that most ships were ran better than our republic is currently. It's
I like
fairness
that.
And equality for everyone. Everyone got a vote towards what the ship was doing at a given time.
It kind of feels like we don't always get a vote, or a vote doesn't always count, though. I think that's the thing that happens nowadays. It's like,
I think that's why you got a lot of people like us that are just disenfranchised with everything. I mean, we're just like, we'd rather just hide out, not play, they just feel like we're not really a part of any political affiliation. We're just tired. We just feel like we're not represented anymore. And why even show up? Because it's just, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. You got both sides that are just back and forth, and nobody's really getting anything done. And it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of positive for the people. And so, I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
But I and again, that's way beyond any of us. We're never fixing that. Not in my lifetime, dude. I'm getting old. So.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a time where things are going to be changing a lot, right? Obviously right now with the pandemic, like a big, giant, crazy, however you look at it, it was crazy for everybody. Yeah. And then now with the Cold War II, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I didn't even want to talk about that. That's
I mean,
scary,
like
man.
I did, but
yeah, I know.
Yeah,
we
we like filled that 3.5 hours right there,
I know,
easy.
I know. Well, I think everybody's nervous about that, man. That's like the elephant in every room.
Well,
man.
I feel weirdly not worried about it. Like I'm just like, there's nothing they can do.
It's so far out of our control, right?
Yeah, it's so far out of control.
But I kind of have the same vibe, dude.
Yeah.
I'm kind of feeling the same. Like. It's not the back of your mind, like, what if it could happen, right? But at the end of the day, dude, I ain't the one pushing buttons, and we're not connected to anybody that is. So,
but we could literally wake up and like you look at your phone, because who doesn't look at their phone when they first wake up?
Right.
And like, they just knew Oklahoma.
Dude, don't even manifest that, bro. Yeah, that's totally manifesting energies, and I believe in that shit, you know. And it's like,
I bet you that
that's not good, man.
That Putin's like, all right, this is just a warning. We know there's nothing in Oklahoma, so we're just gonna nuke them. Except for my buddy.
I'll get that Tiger King.
He saw Tiger King. He probably loves Tiger King. I bet you Putin
man.
watched that during the pandemic.
He kind of looks like they might be related, dude.
Yeah, he
kind
kinda does, doesn't he?
Is that a far stretch?
Dude,
I don't know.
He probably has a tiger.
Uh,
Doesn't he look like the kind of guy that would have like a tiger or two
Dude,
or three?
Siberian tiger.
Oh,
Right?
dude.
Yeah,
He probably has like wild ones.
yeah, just running around his
He
mansion.
probably sleeps with him. He probably has a waterbed. They sleep with him, and it's like,
yeah, tiger furs all around him.
some of the stuff you hear about that guy, like who knows what's true or not, but like he's like horseback riding with his shirt off, and it's kind of almost North Korea-esque, but not nearly as extreme.
Yeah, I think he's got a little ego, you know,
Yeah.
and so those ego guys that are like, yeah, almost like he has to try to be cool, you know, and generally the people that try to be cool aren't.
They're
right?
not cool.
Right. You know, and I just get that air about him. He's always trying to like be the presidential, right? You know, it's just trying to look that way. But
I wish I had
don't
a
know.
good Russian accent, but I don't.
No, yeah, that's fine.
And then it's like half the
That'll
accents.
give you something to do to go home and work on.
I
it.
work
Yeah.
on my Russian accent.
Yeah.
But you know, you're not even allowed to use half the accents that you used to be able to anymore. It's not politically correct.
I can see that. I've never really thought about it.
I think you can still do Irish,
I'm not in those circles, so.
but people
yeah.
get pissed.
Yeah.
People get pissed on St. Patty's Day. Somebody was making fun of, I hate hearing all these stupid Irish accents.
right,
I look
right.
for every reason to use an Irish accent.
Yeah.
Look at the wee little man the size of a peanut. You know, it's just so fun to say.
Yeah.
He's the size of a peanut.
Yeah, you know, and I'm predominantly Irish Scottish myself, you know, and so a big majority, and so it's but I don't do accents. I've never been good at them, you know, and so I can barely speak clearly on the normal and the
just kind of
Oregonian
grunts and
yeah,
snorts.
yeah, you know, so yeah, it is what it is. But anyway, I didn't want to, you know, a little apology for my rants and you know, my negativity. At the end of the day, we live in a beautiful place. Like I said before, we love this place. And
There's pixies and fairies.
we
and
love working here too. I mean, doing business here
Magic,
and working, and now
gold,
in our new
golden
business and doing
things.
construction work for people. We love that, and a lot of outside construction work. We really love that. And we're just doing what we love, and for, you know, people. And I really don't care who you are, and what your political affiliation is, or what your vax status is, or whether you wear a mask or not, dude. It doesn't. At the end of the day, I mean, like personally, you know, most of my friends don't do that stuff, but you know what? I don't really care. I mean, I've never judged anybody for being on any side of any coin.
It's because you're a Toledo.
So, yeah.
In Toledo, the
Yeah,
virus doesn't exist
but-
in Toledo.
You know, so yeah, it was funny because when those statistics came out on the vax rate like a couple months ago, I think Toledo was like 38% or something.
Oh,
Yeah, it was. I did kind of get a chuckle out of that because it was like, you know, everywhere, you know, 72%, 64%, you know, all these
Yeah.
places, and then it was like Toledo
It's like
was
super
like,
low.
yeah,
I
like
told Jeremy-
maybe 40. Yeah,
I told Jeremy the other day, I was like, yeah, Toledo, you know, you pretty much didn't have to wear a mask. And I was like, well, when in Rome. Hey,
Yeah.
we should, before we get off here, just, you know, check out Abe's YouTube channel, Oregon Offgrid.
yeah. Check us out. We're doing all kinds of fun stuff, and yeah, just living it, building the off-grid farm, and having fun doing it.
It's
So,
kind of like half entertainment, half redneck, and half you might learn a little bit of something.
I know. I was actually thinking we should probably do some more like better how-tos or something.
I don't know if we've ever done anything that's could technically be called a how-to, but I think that if you were generally into that kind of stuff and you were watching it, you
I
would
don't
learn
have the
things.
patience to film it, and you're not around enough. So it's like I either have to get better at one, or you have to just come live with me.
Well,
So-
how-to videos are very detail-oriented,
I know.
and it's like
Yeah.
Jeremy's trying to get me to make this how-to video for this photographer guy, potentially, and I'm like, I don't know what he's talking about. Like I've filmed, but I don't understand how to use Photoshop, and this is like very technical stuff, and it's
right,
there's no way I'm gonna be able to do this and know if it's right or wrong, or if
Right.
I need to change something.
Well, at that point, I mean, if you're outside of your comfort zone, you should probably not. So that's a pretty good rule of thumb. That.
But yeah, you just live stream it
Yeah.
like we're doing right now. Like just
Yeah.
explain it. Like here we're
And
gonna
it can
do
be
it.
raw, and you can screw up, and you can say weird stuff,
Yeah,
and
I
it can be
know.
whatever. I mean,
People just get like, especially if you're like like any kind of like higher up in your trade
in your
type
field,
of person.
you don't want to screw up. You mean
It's like
you don't
it's
wanna
like you just
seem
get a little bit of
you're
ego. and-
awkward.
I don't know. It's just like
I mean, my whole life is awkward, dude. I'm like, that's my jam. Like, I'm just awkward and weird. you know?
but then if you're like cool with it, then it's not awkward weird anymore. It's just like
Yeah.
it's just kind of it's like when you fart. You don't really notice it as much if it's your own fart, but if it's somebody else's,
You're like, oh my God, that's horrible. Yeah. No. You
it's
almost
like-
enjoy it. If
it's
yours,
almost enjoy
right?
your own fart.
Right.
But like somebody else's, it's absolutely unacceptable.
Right.
Unacceptable.
Oh, it's downright even like, almost like a personal attack. Like, why would you do that to me?
Biowarfare. My uncles and I used to joke way back in the day when Clinton was president and the Monica
I
Lewinsky
didn't
thing was
realize
happening.
you were that old, dude.
Oh, dude,
Yeah.
I'm getting old.
Yeah,
34.
Yeah. So,
34.
so you were 10.
Yeah. and then that's about the level the joke was, because we were joking about him farting in the middle of like, I did not have
Oh my
a
God.
burnt relationship with that woman.
Would it be like the chicken noise?
every time Abe or somebody on Oregon Offgrid says something profane. No, is it profane? No, it's just a curse word.
Isn't it?
No, you say profane things. I don't know. Anyway, it's a chicken sound.
Well,
the
we
first.
say of mostly 4-letter words.
Yeah.
Get the chicken sound. It's pretty cool. It's kind of our thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's become a distinguishing factor for the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Oregon Offgrid, it's super entertaining. It's not clickbait.
No.
We don't put super hot models on the thumbnails, so you click on it to find out it sucks.
Just me. I'm the hot model. So you gotta see what you get.
Dude, I was working on that video, and I was like, Mariah needs to do your nails.
Oh, my nails? What do you need? What do you like? You want them painted or just trimmed up and pretty?
Oh, I don't know, painted, I guess.
I think this might be more of a personal want and desire of yours rather than an entertainment.
You're right. I
factor.
need this to happen.
Right. Well,
because when I'm making this,
why don't you get yours done?
I can't do. I guess I could. Well, we could have Ron do it.
Ron do your nails?
No, Ron's nails. I could make him.
That would be really.
Ron
weird.
is my helper, and he's also my landlord. So I'm his boss, and he's my landlord. It's kind of a weird yin and yang thing. It's almost.
Yeah.
It's almost. Yeah, we're gonna go on forever if we don't cut this off.
Yeah, cut it off. Knock it off. Nobody gives a shit, Casey.
Hey, well, for all 61 people who maybe 2 of you out of 61 listen to this, thanks for listening. For the first Talk to Us Monster podcast, we have Abe Silvonen, everybody.